So this is a Q&A tutorial, and I'll tell you what that means in a second. So, standard disclaimer, hey, this is information for experimental and education purpose only. We do not replace medical stuff. I really, and, and any recommendations to make are just my personal opinion because I'm not a physician or healthcare provider, and we're not making any claims. So, the usual stuff. Copy of the presentation. It's a PDF copy of the presentation. It'll be available with the presentation at spooky2academy.com. Also, you can send me an email, and I'll try to get any of the emails I get. I'll try to respond to them tomorrow. I think I have time. Yes. I'll get those. I'll get you to send the PDF of that tomorrow. No problem at all. And there'll be some nice links in it, so the PDF will come in handy, conceivably. But the video of this won't be available to probably Friday. That's usually when Zara gets them done. Now, what we're doing is I'm doing a brief demonstration, some query stuff for the new peptide presets. That came up right at the beginning, or actually right at the end of the year when this was already scheduled for my as a new users. So I decided to insert it into the first 15 or 20 minutes. So will it be exhaustive? No, it will not. We'll cover how to get it. Yes, it will do that. It will show you how to use it. Yes, it will do that. So we'll do that, and we're going to get to that almost immediately. So I'm going to do a demonstration and do a little bit of Q&A in that, and then I'm going to talk about the details of, especially for the new users, the people say, "Oh, I have a mess. What do I do now? And how do I install this stuff?" All that. So where am I in this? So what I'm going to do is at the end of each little section I'm doing, I'm going to open up for Q&A just for that stuff in that section, and I'll do my best to answer those. I can only spend X amount of minutes on those things. If I don't get that answer, I will go through everybody's questions at the end of the full presentation. But I do need to get through the full presentation. So that's the way this is going to work. It's going to be a lot more interactive than what I've done in the past, because I want to make sure before I end a topic that I've covered everything I can, or everything I could within that amount of time. So let's see. All right. So who am I? I'm an information technology specialist. Have been for decades now. I've got a bunch of spooky stuff. I actually have spooky stuff in 3 separate locations, not including actually, no, this is one of the locations. I'm in Arizona at my sister's house. I have a spooky here that I do stuff locally for, and I have 3 computers at home in Mexico, which are still up and running, and I have one in southern Arizona that I'm running. So I have them all over the place, and I just manage those from wherever I am. And I've got most of the big stuff for spooky. I don't have the little portable one. I don't have one of those, but I have most of the other stuff. And by the way, you're always welcome to contact me on my Telegram channel, or you can email Spooky Tech Help. That's fine. I'm pretty good at answering that stuff, usually within 24 hours. It depends, but most of the time I do that, so it's not a problem. And if you're not a member of the Spooky2 Right for Life Facebook group, whether you like Facebook or not, I'd really recommend you join that. It's a very active group. It's got, over 95,000 members right now. It literally has thousands of posts per month. It's hard to keep up from that point of view. And I am an administrator there. And there's about a dozen administrators who've been with using Spooky longer than me. So they've been 10 plus years. So they've seen it all, done it all, and they're really good at helping people. So why am I doing this presentation? Well, if you've been to my presentations before, I'm very oriented at the new non-technical users. I'm not a practitioner. I can't tell you, oh, you should run this program to cure your cancer. I can't do that. I can talk about the cancer DB protocol or whatever, but that doesn't mean I really know that much about that. But I can help you figure out what to do and run. That's the idea. So I want you to be able to set up and run your Spooky2 equipment by yourself. I mean, that's the whole intent, because you're not going to have anybody available, 24/7. You need to learn how to do it. And trust me, it looks much harder than it actually is. It's actually pretty easy to run. And I've done several presentations this last year on doing this stuff. And there's a 4 steps one of how to run it. And in November, I actually did a demo, a cable by cable, whatever, setting it up and getting it all running and all that. And we're going to be referring to that in this particular presentation. Okay, and I'm also going to cover the peptide presets, and they're very new to the Facebook users and to most people out there, and we all need to know about them because they're really unique. So this presentation is different, like I said, because I'm going to do Q&As at the end of each section. Uh, and to be answered live as time permits, because I want to try to get everybody's stuff answered in context. Because sometimes I cover all this stuff, and you had a question back here, and that sort of stuff. So we're going to try to do that. And also, if we get to the one that, well, here we're going to talk about terrain, and nobody cares about terrain, we won't spend the time on it. We will go on to the main Q&A or whatever we're going to do, whatever the next section is. Okay, this is our agenda. I have a preface. It's the bonus one. We're about the Spooky2 peptide presets. Okay. Then we're going to do the new user training, Windows system changes, software download, software extraction and installation, driver installation, which is the hardest part, by the way, hardware installation, hardware testing, and running detox. Those are the things we're covering. So the prerequisites for all this is you've got to have a Windows computer. I just answered somebody today. Oh, they just got their Speaky and they figured out how to download it, but how did they get it running on their Mac? The answer is you can't. It will not run. It will not run on a Mac. There's some really ugly things you can do to sort of run Windows in a Mac. That's well beyond what we're going to do in this presentation. So essentially, you need a Windows computer, and you can buy a refurbished Windows computer on Amazon for $150. Or better yet, you can look in your closet, your friend's closet, and find an old computer that you're not using, and it will run Spooky2, as long as it's Windows. You'll need some internet access to download things. You need at least one Spooky2 generator. You'll need a Spooky2 boost and remote. We'll talk about those later on. Bonus! Peptide presets, and a bunch of you are here for this, and I know you are. Okay, what are they? Well, first let me talk about what a preset is. Don't forget, I aimed this at people that are brand new. They may not know what a preset is. Some of you know exactly what a preset is. So what is a preset? A preset is just a factory-supplied script that Spooky2 runs to treat a given condition. For instance, if you had warts, you could just search on warts, find 52 scripts, literally, that you could just load and run. So that's the search, put it on there, and run it. It's that simple. And it is that simple, by the way. But in January, they introduced something called the JW Peptide presets. We're going to show you that in a second. There were 475 at the time. A lot of them for things that weren't in the database before. Now, what's interesting is John White developed these, and he continues to develop these things as we speak, because as of January 7th, he's actually done four updates since then to add even more. We're up to 818 presets as of today. So he's adding more and more stuff, and we'll get to look at those in just a couple minutes. So, and essentially, it's just another way to deliver healing stuff. That's the best way to play it. Okay, what are peptides? So here's this nifty link in here that once you have the hard copy, you can click on it. This is the blog where he announced it, where John White announced it and gave you a rough idea what peptides are. And so it's a very interesting one. If you haven't read it, you should, and that means everybody here should read it because it's such a unique idea. So essentially, and this is sort of a lift out of his stuff, a peptide preset consists of specialized peptides. Okay, so in the past, we have these databases which still exist and say, hey, I have warts, as an example. Well, there's a bunch of different kind of warts, and there'd be programs that other people have developed through the years that helped on warts, and we have databases of all that, and you could try this or try that, and you'd probably find one that helps you. Peptides are a lot more specific than that, okay? And so they zero in on an underlying biological trigger. And a great example, believe it or not, of a peptide is insulin. Insulin is a peptide. What it does, if you are a diabetic, you inject it in your system, and it makes your system more do whatever it needs to in order to take care of the sugars and stuff in your bloodstream and in your body. And so the insulin itself doesn't do the work. What happens is the insulin gets the cells to do the work. That's why it's a peptide. It's not a complete protein or whatever stuff. I am not a scientist. I cannot give you the theory and all that stuff of peptides. I just now learned about them, to be honest. I just now learned about them in the last 10 days. So, but I can tell you how to use them, and we're going to show that. So what are they? So it's focused intervention. It goes at very specific things. That's what it's aimed at. And so it's based on research, and these peptides do this and whatever. They should be, because I can't guarantee anything, but they're engineered for consistent performance. Example, actually, not that we can do it this way, but if we look back at insulin, insulin does a very specific thing in your system. And if we could do something like that, it would do the same sort of thing. It's budget friendly. Yep, because you don't have to buy anything. It's gentle on the body because it's using it's not like you took a pill and your digestive system and liver has to post process it and all this sort of stuff. It's not like that. So it's easier on your system. It's expandable. That's easy. It's user friendly because it's included in Spooky. And so you don't have to do anything except install the peptides, which for most of us just means installing the January 1st update to Spooky 2, and they'll be there. So, what are the considerations for this? Well, first thing is that these are presets; they're not programs, and so when you'll see them, and they're very specific. So, if you want to work on warts and you want to work on sleep and you want to work on some other things, you have to chain peptides together. And all chaining you have a preset that this is the preset. It does X, but there's another one over here I want to run as well. It's gluing them together so they run sequentially. That's what chaining is. We'll talk about that a little more in a minute. So there's no peptides in the program's database. They're all presets. You can't imprint them into anything. Doesn't work because the peptides, they're actually a series of programs and they have to be run in sequence to do what you want. And so when you imprint, it's like, here's 50 fragments, plop them on this sticker or in this stone or whatever you put them in, and you get them all at the same time. Will not work, can't imprint them. Okay, start slowly, and we'll talk about that in a minute, see how they affect you. I'll talk about that a lot in just a minute. They're going to run on an XM or a GX, but probably better. Yeah, that should be better on the GX. Another mistake. The reason is peptides are done with molecular weight. And molecular weight is that it's a way to convert the molecular weight into a frequency. Okay, and the frequencies are very high. They're up higher than either generator will do. The GX is good up to about 40 megahertz, and still much higher than that. So the way it works for us is it's doing a harmonic. That means suppose you needed 100 megahertz. Well, a subharmonic would be 50 megahertz. A subharmonic that'd be 25 megahertz. So in the case of the GX, it might do 25 megahertz. It'd be better if it could do the real frequency, but the subharmonic worked pretty well as well. The XM though is only good to 5 megahertz, so it goes down from there, but it still is effective. And a lot of people are having really good luck running on an XM. So don't worry about that. If you can run them on a GX, I would. If not, you do start on the XM. You can run them on multiple generators for a person. So if you had 3 XM generators, you could run the different things on each generator. You don't really need to run the same thing on each generators. And using them, it's just like any other preset. If you want to do remote, you can run them 24/7. You could run them twice a day for most other modes, contact, plasma, whatever you got. That's the way this is going to work. So if there's not any difference, the difference is the frequencies it's sending are different because you're not using the stuff out of the programs, out of the program's databases. Hopefully this makes sense. Okay, let's take a look at this. Let's see. Over here, I have a Spooky 2 somewhere. There it is. Okay, so this is the presets tab, and notice this is the January 1st version of Spooky. This is the official one. If you go to the downloads page, this is what you're going to get. And by the way, if you already have Spooky, if you install this, it installs over the top of it. It's not a problem. You don't have to uninstall anything. All your saved programs and saved presets will still be there. If you've installed the DH stuff, it's still there. So then that's the way the upgrade process works. One of the things I've found from Facebook is there's an awful lot of people that install once and they never think about it again. But you're going to want to think about that with us because that's where the peptides are. So down here, it says JW peptides. We're going to open that. Notice this looks very, very similar. I'm not going to talk about animals because I haven't looked at it yet. But if you use coil, contact, laser, plasma, remote is the easiest. I always talk about remote. And we'll talk about shells eventually. This is something that's being done. Actually, we should click on that if it opens, and it did. So this is no thanks. This is a way you can actually search on it. I don't know about you, but I find that the search facility in presets it returns too much because it says, oh, you'll look for warts. Well, it shows you all the warts programs, and it shows you 6 different versions of each warts program. It's difficult to find anything. But this is now a PDF. So you can actually look at it and see, you can do a find on stuff and find it in the name or whatever. And so if we go look at, because I've been looking at acid reflux a lot. So this is acid reflux. And this gives you some details on what it is, and it talks about what it addressed. So this is actually pretty good compared to most stuff in Spooky, but I can't tell you exactly what peptides are. I have no idea. And I've seen some posts about that today, and they didn't have any idea either. So that's what this is, though. And so if you want to, but the PDF is really good because you need to find stuff, and it works really well in here. It's still fine for weight. I have this weight problem I want to work on. Context. I can't see it all because my stuff's in the way. Anyway, so arthritis. I mean, there's a lot of really good stuff in here. Okay, so let's go look at remote. So in remote, here are the list, and notice there's 818 because I updated today, and I will talk about that as well. And these are the current ones as of today that are in here. And so there's a ton of them. And so if we look at acid reflux, again, there are 6 programs in there, but they run very differently. Let's see if I need to get this out here. I want to keep that. Okay. So what that means is if I go to acid, so I select acid reflux, I go plop it onto a generator, put it on this one, and this is what it looks like. These M's mean their molecular weights, okay? And we start it. And this is a test system, so it's not, but notice they do not stay very long. That's the nature of it. That's the way this is delivered. This is normal. This is what it's going to look like. And it has about a 1/4 second pause, which is what this packing frequency is, you can barely see, between each frequency. And then this is like a 1 second pause between each iteration of the program. And the way this is set up is it's going to run acid reflux 10 times. And then when it gets done running it 10 times, it'll move on to this one and run 10 times. And naturally, this is remote. It's going to do this forever. Okay. That's the way this works. But there's another aspect of this that I know briefly is that this will not work well without a lot of massage in offline mode in your JX generators. Plan on running this online. There's a way to sort of get it to work there, but you're not going to like it. So if you want to run the peptides, you need to do it online. So let's go back to my demonstration. So one of the things you can do, as I pointed out, let me maximize this, back to presets. Suppose I wanted to run acid reflux, but I also want to run acidic urine. So I can click on this, and then I can add it to chain, and maybe I want this one. I can add a chain. I see you chaining these together. So I'm going to run these in sequence. That's what chaining is. It's gluing a bunch of these things together. And I'm too lazy to look up stuff. Once we do that, then we save it. I got to save this because it doesn't know nothing yet. I have to save it. We're going to call it my test chain, if I can spell. Actually, if I can type. So I've now saved it. So if I open this, my user stuff, here it is, my test chain, and it's got these guys in it, okay? And then I go out and have to get to my content, my setting, my control tab, and I put this in generator 4. Notice all it says is acid reflux, but down here in preset, it says 1 of 4. So what'll happen is it's going to run this one, and when it gets done, it's going to go on to the next one. So don't be worried about that. It's all 4 in there because it said there were 4. It's a set and forget. Don't get wound up because seeing it a lot. It only says acid reflux. That's because the control tab doesn't show you all the names of what it's going to run. When this advances to 2, like this, then it'll change. It'll change this up there. Okay, so it'll take care of all that for you. So back to this. Okay, so that's the demonstration. All right. So remember, these are presets, not programs. They're self-contained scripts. If you want to run them together or sequentially, you must chain them together. I have a video in here that I did. It's a 3.5-minute video, which just shows what I just did of how to create chains. So that's another one that's out on my YouTube channel. And chaining is also documented in the Spooky 2 Users Guide on page 101. All right. So I want you to think about this about starting slowly. One of the things that happens, especially with new people in Spooky, is I have a list of 23 things that are wrong with me. I'm going to try to fix them all at once. Never a good idea. There's a whole bunch of reasons for that. I recommend no one works on more than one or two things at a time because for a whole bunch of reasons, not the least of which is you can't tell what's helping and what's not. So, and what I want you to think about is consider that insulin is a peptide. So we want to start slowly. So what happens if you get too much insulin? Well, you die. Because what happens is your blood sugar level gets so low that you can't exist anymore. Now, the spooky peptides are not going to be near that powerful. They're not. Okay. I'm just using that as an example. So you need to be careful. And one of the things I'd recommend is I'd start with a single peptide and see how you react to peptides. Pick something that you can gauge on how much it's helping. That sort of stuff. I'd run that and maybe run it for an hour and see what happens. And if you don't feel no different, well, run it for 2 hours. But don't go wild with this. I've seen some people that went wild and they didn't hurt them, but all of a sudden they couldn't sleep at night. They're having weird dreams. I mean, all kinds of stuff. So start slowly, like everything else. When John White came out with the molecular weight database, by the way, in 17, 18, whatever it was, and that's what he would recommend at the time. Well, you didn't want to run something on remote to where when you weren't at home. What if you had a reaction to it? That sort of stuff. And it's the same thing here. You need to be careful, go slowly and see what works and what doesn't for you. And maybe you can go longer. Actually, I yesterday I started, there's a memory improvement one that I'm running on my wife and I. And I remembered to be here, so it must be working. Although I had a bunch of alarms set as well, but still, we're testing that. I'm actually right now because I'm testing it. I've just started using them, and my sister here in Phoenix has tremors in her right hand. And so there's an age-related tremors. I started that on her yesterday, and I'm running it 24/7 because I'm here with her. I can see if there's any downsides or whatever. And she said, "Oh, yesterday she had less tremors. So we'll see what happens." That's what we're trying to do to gauge what happens. This is consider this a healing protocol, and so for some things, you can run it for whatever, and healing takes the most amount of time, by the way. And even if it helped after 5 days, and you turned it back off, maybe to come back, so maybe you need to run it longer or whatever. There's no fixed thing for this. You have to see what works for you. All right. Let's see. We took all right. So how do you get these things? Well, you get these things by I don't know if I can minimize this. I'm getting tired of my bar being in here, and I can't remember how to get rid of it. Let's see. Hide video, hide floating controls. How to get it back if I hide it? No, I don't want to do that. All right. Well, they're included for free. If you've got any version of Spooky installed, actually, even if you don't have any version, if you download and install the January 1st version, they come with preset with the peptide presets. Period. Doesn't cost anything. So the thing that's all I like about Spooky. He's spending gobs of ton of money and time on this, and it's all included. Okay, so just include it, install it, but make sure you have the January 1st one to get all this stuff. They can be added to older versions of Spooky. It's not fully supported, but it does work. So some people I know prefer to run the 2022 version. That's about as far back as you can go in this work. But there's a way to do that. I'll talk about that in a second. And if you want updated peptides, because Spooky doesn't put out a major release every month. I think they put out 4 releases or 5 last year, although they'll probably do more this year because of the peptides. But they're not going to put out a bunch of them per month. So actually, in here, these are links to my YouTube videos that tell you how to you can install or update just the peptide presets. That's the reason that when you were looking at my stuff, it actually had stuff in it from that were from the 6th of January, because I ran this today and it updated it. So keep in mind it's going to do that. And if you want to just the whole software, look at this other link as well that shows you it's a step-by-step from download to whatever of how to do that. Okay. Now, for all you guys that were let me see if I can do this. Let me see what I have in the Q&A. Now, what I'm going to do is I'll look at here and I'll spend 5 minutes answering these questions and I got to move on. And so, and I'll get what I can in here. What I can't get now, I will do later. Okay. That's what I'm going to do. That's the reason why endo and enzyme suppressors are only available for a room. I don't have a clue. Those are questions that you're either going to have to ask customer support or on the forum. The forum is where a bunch of stuff is taking place, and if you're not a member there and you want really detailed, then that's where you have to go. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not a scientist. I've in this presentation that I've done so far, I've just about exhausted my knowledge of peptides. Um, but I know how to use them. I know how this stuff, and I don't feel for most of us we need to know exactly how they work if they work. So I don't have any. I can't tell you why they're only available for remote. That's a question for them. Okay, got that. Let's see, cancer therapy. That's something you can request. I'd love to say cancer therapy use the enzyme based on successful cancer therapy in Oasis, Mexico by Dr. Richardson. That's something you can actually post in the forum, and John will take a look at it and see if he can do that. Kathy, I'm trying to keep up with Diva. Yep, that's his favorite. He's also keeping up to date. Um, here's and okay, so what's been happening started at the end of December is that Prana was posting stuff in Facebook, links that were in the forum. That's where this stuff started. That's how I got a hold of this stuff in December. But then what happened is Prana and John White got together and actually updated Spooky 2. So you could go to the Spooky 2 downloads page and get it. And it had, as of January 1st, all that stuff in it. And since that time, for the first 4 or 5 days in January, they kept doing stuff on the forum, which was a pain. It was just a pain to do. But finally, yesterday, they started actually updating. There's a beta site, and at the beta site, which is where my videos I already did, the video for updating it uses the beta site, so you don't have to deal with that forum stuff anymore. It's you down this exec file and you run it, and that's all you have to do, and it updates your Spooky, and it'll be within a couple days. And I think they're going to maintain that. That's what I've heard anyway. That's what I would do. I would not do the forum stuff unless you're really good with computers. Does Windows? No, we're going to do that. I'll take care of the Windows Update questions later. Nope, we're not going to talk about that one. No, we're not going to talk about that one. Oh, this is pretty good. No, we're not going to do that. So, what is the ATP and pre-site peptides? I have no idea. I don't know what I can't. Like I said, I'm not a scientist. I'm sorry. Let's see. No. Well, you can, with a lot of ugly massage and manual work, you can run peptide presets on a GX Pro in standalone mode, but you're not going to like it. It's way too much work. You really need to run it hooked up to a computer. I got 2 questions in a row. Oh, there's online stuff. Okay, so what it amounts to is the GX, you can actually load the GX with stuff and disconnect it from a computer and run it that way. And that works for some things, but there's a lot of stuff it won't do. And the way that the peptides presets work, it won't do it. I mean, you can do things manually, but that's the deal. So that's what I mean, the peptides online. Online means you've got your GX hooked up to your computer and you're running it that way. That's what I would really recommend. And I took care of those. Let's see where we are. I'll take care of the chaining question later. The peptides PDF was actually if you go to the JW peptides folder in presets, it's there. Click on that and you'll open the PDF. And what time is it? I'll do a couple more of these. Nope, we're not going to do that. Nope, we're not going to do that. Can you run the microgen? Yes, apparently you can run it on the microgen, but I don't know the details because I don't have a microgen. But I've asked about that question. I was told, yes, it is possible to do, but I don't know the details of how to do it. Sorry. I'll come back to that. Actually, how do I update the peptide preset? You follow the link that I had earlier to my YouTube video and does a step by step of how to download that stuff because you don't download this from the main spooky.com. It's from from their beta site. So I'm not going to do that at the moment. How does one find the forum? The forum is you go to spooky2.com and then there's a forum link. Go in there and you have to register for it. And you can't use your email. It has to be your real name. And so that's how you get to the forum. And at the forum, I am not a forum supporter. That's right. The forum, to me, the forum is like if you went into this large room and there are 500 piles of papers, and each paper represented a topic. And then you wanted to find out something, you'd actually have to go look at them. Yes, there's searches, but I don't find the forum as user friendly. That would be the best way to put it. I'm being kind. You can't find the if yeah. I need to figure that one out. I'll answer that one. That you can't find the peptide PTF on the laptop. I'll look at that later. I'll fully answer that later. Okay. We'll see what we can do for that because I think it's really important. No, you cannot imprint peptide. Sorry. Um, how do you calculate? No, I'll do that one. Scalar vibe. The scalar is an option. So yes, theoretically, you can do this with scalar. For one more minute of this, and then I got to move on. And again, anything I don't answer now, I will cover at the end after I've gotten through the rest of the rest of this. Okay, that's everything. Okay, cool. And I will look for the peptide PDF because I have a feeling that's something that Prana did in one of his early test things and it didn't show up later. So I'll figure that one out and I will take care of it. If I have to, I will. You can actually, when we get done, you'll get my email, which is spooky tech help, spooky TECHHELP at gmail.com. If you don't have it and you send me a link or send me an email, I will send you the actual document and I'll find out from Prana if he's going to maintain that. Okay, back to my stuff. All right, new user training. Remember, that's what this is supposed to be about. So the intent of this is to go from the left plan where you have a mess here sitting on your desk to I'm running this, which by the way, this is terrain. That's the intent of this. I actually went through all this. Is it in here? Yes, I actually did a session on doing that in November. This is the link to the actual presentation where I demoed every one of these things. Okay, and so I'd really recommend you look at that and and see what you think. But so the intent of this is even if you haven't watched it, for those who are new and you're stuck or you don't understand, this is a great time to be in to go through those things. That's the intent of this. And so we're going to go through this sections one at a time. So the first thing I want to talk about are the Windows system changes. So there's several things you need to do for Windows. Okay. Number one, you need to turn off sleep. This is pretty straightforward. You click Windows, type in sleep, and change the sleep timeouts to never. You do not want it to go to sleep. When Spooky's running, it's actually talking to the generators every second, literally. And so if it goes to sleep, it doesn't talk to the generators anymore, and so your generator gets stuck. So that's one of the things that with Spooky, the computer is on all the time. The display doesn't have to be on all the time, but it needs to be running 24/7. And it's going to be 24/7. Because one of the things you're going to be doing is you're going to be running things in the Spooky remote because it's so convenient. And that runs 24/7. You won't do things that I'm going to run that for 3 hours a day. And not if you're running a remote. You need a run remotes 24/7. The second thing is, assuming this is on a laptop, and most people are, you want to make sure you're able to close the lid and not go to sleep. Because the default is when you close the lid, it goes to sleep. So we need to do that. All you do is click on the Windows button in the lower left and type in lid and go change it what happens to the lid. And by the way, closing the lid is a good way to keep your cat from typing on the computer because cats like to do that. They're texting their friends. They're watching cat porn. They're doing whatever on your computer. And you won't like it if they are. So I always, on my laptops, I do all that. I close them. They don't go to sleep, and they don't go to sleep when I close the lid. Always recommended. And let me see if I have any Q&A on that. Back to Q&A. It'll be at the bottom. Yeah, we'll let them answer the recording. That was actually answered earlier. Okay, so nobody asked any questions on this. Let me make sure this is your opportunity. If you want to ask any questions on these Windows configuration things, this is the time to do it. If not, oh yes, sleep. Okay, so one of the things that's been put in Windows forever is a way to preserve power or whatever is it would go to sleep. That means it saves everything the computer is doing at the moment, okay? And then when you open the computer again, it picks up where it left off, okay? It's a great thing for normal computer stuff. That's what we need. We want the computer to run 24 by 7. And by the way, with modern computers, they suck up almost no power at all. And we're talking, the average computer these days is probably 30 or 40 watts, maybe 50. I mean, it's not very much. It's way less than the light bulb, although current light bulbs is a bunch of them. But it's not very much power. Don't worry about heat. It's not worth it. Now, if you have a 10-year-old desktop, it's sucking up a lot more power than that, and it runs a lot hotter. So that's what sleep is. Okay. So we've done with that. All right. So Vimeo link in the chat. Yeah, I can get to that in a little while because I'm not doing chat, but Azara might do that. Let me answer this one because it's a matter. Well, window updating. Yes, one of the things that's not in here is you need to figure out a way to tell Microsoft not to update your computer. Because what happens, Microsoft loves to do updates. And they don't do it to protect you, by the way. They do it because Lori's told them they should. They're there to CYA, not yours. Okay. Um, so they put these updates out, and then generally the computer has to reboot in order to put the update on. When it reboots, Spooky shuts down. It doesn't come back up, and so at 1 a.m. it rebooted. That's too bad for your Spooky. So what most people do for that is they turn off Wi-Fi, so it can't get the updates. There's a really nice freeware program that I use on all my spookies that turn off updates because it's really hard to do, but the freeware does a good job of it. If you're interested in that, you need to send me an email because it's non-spooky software, so I'm not going to cover that here. No, I'm not going to cover this. Again, that's spookytechhelp@gmail.com. And I'm sure that Zara will put that in the chat again. So, if you send me something, I can send you the instructions on how to get it and how to run it. And it's really easy to do. And you could turn off that stuff that way, which I do because, like I said, I have spookies in 3 different physical locations. They have to be connected to the internet all the time or I can't see them. So that's what I do. Let's see. We're not going to give me a link. She's going to do that. Windows update. I said that. There was a question about USB selective suspend. Don't worry about that. That's an old concept. It had to do with whether or not it would sleep the USB ports. It's a really old concept, so don't sweat it. It's not a big deal. Just what I've covered is what you need to do. I'll answer the peptide stuff later. It's in the Q&A. Okay, moving along then. Software download. And by the way, this applies for you guys that already have Spooky and want to get to the January 1st version so you have peptides. I use the Edge processor. Actually, I don't use the Edge browser for anything other than examples because it just doesn't. I don't like it. I use other things, but I use Edge because everybody has it. You go to spooky2.com downloads page, click on the balloon color software, wait for the download complete. This is just the downloads part. What this looks like, if I still have it open, did I close it? Geez, I closed Edge. I can't believe that. I'm supposed to leave it open. Fine, be that way. Let's see, Edge. Sorry about that. So this is the Edge processor, spooky2.com/downloads page. This is, if it ever comes back. And Spooky every now and then they get things really slow, which is why I don't like to do things live like this. Earlier today, I could not open this page for nothing. 15, 20 minutes later, it opened fine. So we'll look at this later, see if it ever comes back. Most of the time it works pretty good, but every now and then, like everything else, it freezes up on you. So we'll leave that like it is. We'll come back to it, I promise. And we're gonna I only download the software. You can do the full package, don't bother. There's not that much more in it, and all that's contained in Spooky anyway. So I only do the software download. The other one just download some books with it. Still not there. Okay. So let's see if anybody's been having any problems with the install stuff. Um, I'll talk about generator errors later. Do you have to close other applications to properly run? No, that's another later one. So answer or ask about download issues. Download or install issues is what we're working on right now. And we've got a couple more sections to cover for extraction and download. So you can think of this in a minute. So okay. I don't see anything there. That's Tamara. I'll get to you later. All right, let's go back to this then. Okay, 3 is the uh, extracting the software. Well, that's pretty easy, actually. So if we go back into here and notice, it's still not there. It doesn't give you a warm and fuzzy feeling, does it? Give you a fuzzy feeling, but not warm and fuzzy. So hopefully they'll come eventually. But one of the things that when it downloads, you're going to get, did I get rid of that too? I closed everything out before I started this to make sure it was all clean, and I closed out more than I should have. Let's go into File Manager. That's this little file folder down at the bottom. And then let me get this out of the way. So here we are in File Manager. And I want to go to Downloads because that's where Spooky goes. And this is what it downloads. Is this guy right here. So it's a compressed zip file. All you got to do is you double click on that, and it actually opens it up someday. And this is the setup. And then you double click on that. And we're not going to do a full install. Now, this is really common in Edge and maybe others as well. You get this Windows Protector your PC. Yeah. That's because you didn't get it from them. They didn't get the cut of it, that sort of thing. Click on more info and say run anyway. And it will. Then it's going to extract a bunch of stuff someday in the future, hopefully soon. And most of the time, it doesn't take that long. Depends on your computer and what it's doing at the moment, which apparently mine's doing a lot. Anyway, so it's going to come back and it's going to, the usual stuff. It's going to say, I've extracted a bunch of stuff. What's going on? This should be doing more than this. There it is. This guy down here. Do you really want to do this? Yes, I do. And then it'll extract a bunch of files. And this, all it's doing now is extracting the setup files. That's all it's doing. And I'll answer some of these questions. No, you don't need Edge. You can use any browser. Well, you can use Firefox, Chrome. That pretty much sums it, although I use Vivaldi. You can use whatever you want. Okay, that'll be fine. All right, she's doing something with that. So what are we doing here? Still thinking about it. Think somewhere. There it is. Yeah, I want it. This is the installation language. It doesn't affect what language Spooky's in. I don't know why they bother with that, but they did. Where are we now? It should be. Oh, yeah. It doesn't want to do this because Spooky's running, and I'm not going to close it down. But anyway, you do that. It's really straightforward. Answer yes. Take all the defaults. Do not change the defaults. You'll get in trouble later if you do. Oh, yeah. Look at this. And it went on anyway. But we're not going to go on. I'm going to cancel this, exit setup. So you go through that, and it's pretty easy to install. That's not a problem. Okay, so what else do we have here? We'll go peptide ones I'll answer later. Yes, updates are the same as initial install. There's no difference at all. One of the things when you're doing Spooky, it's actually really convenient. You shouldn't uninstall Spooky. Never do that. Because if you do, it may not save all your stuff that you did before. So you just download it, install, it'll update you to whatever it is. All your stuff is still there. It works really well. It's live. Yes. Where about the beta site? That's in my video. And if I get a chance, we'll talk about that later. So I'm going to leave that open. Okay. So that took care of that. I can close this. And let's go on to this is the extracting. Okay. Now, drivers. Drivers are a little different. And I really want to demo those because drivers where people get bit. You know, the problem is that drivers drivers are non-standard. That's the best way to put that. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to go restart our Spooky. Since I actually don't have this is a test system, I have no things on this. Yes, I want to exit. So now we've done that. So now we go and we say, I'm going to start Spooky2, click on that once. So it's going to come through. Actually, I got to get out of this. All right, it didn't find any generators. So before I do that, I need to get out of this stuff because otherwise it's going to drive me crazy. Okay, no generators were detected. Okay, if if you're a brand new user, you're going to get this because you don't have drivers there, so you want to do that. If you've already installed Spooky and it was running and you get this message, you have a problem. That means it can't find the generators and it should be able to, and you need to resolve that. The number one cause for that is you have a GX generator and you forgot to turn it on. It needs to be turned on before you start Spooky. And so do the blue generators, but they're usually on anyway. Or maybe I've seen people that they have a power switch on their USB hub and it wasn't turned on. But if you get this message and you've run before, you have a problem. So yes, we're going to exit, install drivers. There's a reason I want to do this. Now, hopefully you can see this screen. This is standard stuff in Windows. Yes, I'm going to put this in. It's going to do that. It's going to hopefully pop up something which it didn't on the screen. So one of the things in this that you want to do, anytime you see these things at the bottom of the screen, that means that that's something for you to look at. So you need to look at that. So I'll click on that and it should come up. Come on. Make a liar out of me. Jeez. Something's in full screen it doesn't like. So we will get rid of all these things and we will find it somehow. There it is. Let me get rid of my double commander. It's what I use instead of file manager. Okay. So this is one of the ones you got, and it's because it was down here. I clicked on that. I want to install this. Notice it's going to install the CH341 SER. Now so we're going to install that. We click on install, and we hope it's doing something. It doesn't tell us to do anything. It says it's successfully installed. It'd be really nice if it closed this window, but it does not. So make a note. This was the CH341. We've already installed it. We're going to close that. Now we go, look, there's something else flashing down here. Let's get that next. We click on that, and we say yes. And this is a normal install driver thing now. So we say yes, we accept the agreement, yes, next, whatever. And it says, oh, it did that. We click on it again. And then notice we have another flashing one down here. We've got to take care of all these things. Say yes. And yes. This looks familiar, but this is a 343. That's different. Install that. Hopefully it's doing something. And it finally did. We can close that now. But we still need to say, yep, we want this done. Extract that. Say next. Accept. Finish. So the important thing here when you're doing this stuff is you've got to look down here for those flashing shield things. I've seen people not do it. And if you don't answer yes, if you don't let those things install, it will not see the GX Pro. You'll see a GX, but everybody's going to have a GX Pro if you're new, and it will not see the new XM generators. It won't see them at all. So make sure you look for these things and do that. It's a gotcha that I've seen a lot. That's the reason I'm mentioning it. Okay, so let's go back to our presentation. Now, let's see, software extract, no, drive installation, okay. Shift F5. Okay. So in order to do this, you got to make sure there aren't any generators attached when you're doing this. So make sure they're not attached. And you can reinstall them a bunch if you want to. There's no reason to, but you can if you wanted to. So you open it, you're going to be receiving no generators found, follow the prompts. And the gotchas I pointed out, there's the shields, look for them. And we demoed it already. So what questions do we have, if any, so far on this install stuff? I'll get to you in a minute. No, beta site. I uninstalled the Spooky program, installed it again um, to get the January updates. No, there's nothing wrong with that. The trick is that sometimes, not always, sometimes if you install, if you had been running this for 6 months and you saved some programs or you saved some presets, or you did other things, it may not remember. If you uninstall, that stuff may go away. That's the reason you don't want to. But there's no reason that you can't do that. But I would not recommend it in the standard scheme of things. And I've seen times when an uninstall cleaned that stuff up, and times that it didn't, and I've never figured out why. So the best answer is don't bother to uninstall. Just install over the top. You'll be fine. Does that mean you're bad? No, it really doesn't. So don't worry about that. Where was I? So yeah, that answered that one. I'm a beginner. Okay. Um, I can answer biofeedback questions later, not today. Also, my generator shows 5 and 6. That's an install question. So one of the things that happens when you hook things up, when you hook up your generators, the first time you hook them up, Windows assigns a generator number to it, like 5 or 6, 3 or 4, whatever it is. But Windows assigns those, okay? And so what they are is what they are. They most of the time they don't change. They can change if, for instance, maybe you didn't have a USB hub before, but now you do. It can change in that point, and so be careful of that. But most of the time they don't change. For you, you're 5 and 6. It'll probably be 5 and 6 forever. That's the way that works. And if you have more questions about that, we'll take care of that later on in the presentation. When I run Spooky2, we'll answer the power one later. When I look at the connections, there's no red light. We'll get to that in just a second. How often should you update? That's a good question. I'll answer that one. How often should you update? It's up to you. I didn't update for the first 2 or 3 years that I had because I didn't see any reason to. I came out of software, and in software, when you're working for Charles Schwab, for instance, which I did, you don't update unless you have to. Because what happens is they come out with a new release and it's got all this cool stuff in it, but they introduce some bugs. And if you're Charles Schwab, that makes a difference. When I worked at Charles Schwab, if they had a computer outage of any kind at all, then the next morning it was in the Wall Street Journal. I'll tell you, that's a lot of pressure. So normally my recommendation is I don't update unless there's something I want in it. In this case, this peptides. In peptide, you want peptides. You really do. In my opinion, you should update. If you're somebody who's been around for a long time, we can have another discussion about that. If you're anybody who's bought Spooky within the last 2 years, you should update. That's exactly what I think. So it's not live, done. Done. Okay, that's power. All right. So we've done drivers. So let's move on. Hardware hookup. Okay, there's a couple things. You guys have been out there for a long time, and I'm covering B and C connectors. It's like, how hard is this? I've had issues with this with people. They don't understand what a B and C connector is. And so that's what I've showed you. This is, let me unshare this real quick. Stop share. So this is a Spooky Boost, okay? This is a Spooky Boost. One side has 6 connectors, the other side has 2 connectors. And by the way, this one, okay, that's the one 4, that's the top. These go on to the generator. I have an XM here somewhere. This is an XL, okay? And what it amounts to is what I was trying to show in there was, if you look at the connectors here, they have this little, see this little guy here? And see how this one's in the wrong place? Those should be vertical. They should be up and down. And the reason they should be up and down is because when I come to these, let's see if I can do this. These have little pins on them. And those pins better align to those slots or it's not going to go in. The next thing is on the XM has, the blue generator has 4 connectors on it. And this is out 2, out 1. And then this is, I can't read it with these glasses on. I definitely can't read it because I have stickers on them. Anyway, we never use these ones. We don't use these. We only use out 1 and out 2. And this here nifty boost goes on here. And if I've lined them up correctly, which I didn't. I'm missing one. It won't go on. So what I find, see, I turned it just a little bit, went on. Once you do that, you need to twist this part, and you might have heard that, but probably not. So they click into place. Now there's a trick to that. They click into place because these things are spring loaded. Okay. And so if you have trouble getting them off, if you push them towards where you're hooking up to, that gets them out of that little indent. That comes in really handy for some of the stuff we have to do, because sometimes you have to take the boost off. The last thing on this is a remote. And a remote looks like this, the little clamshell deal. They're white inside. That's important because there's another device that looks like this we're not going to cover. These are white inside. That's the remote. That's where you're going to put your DNA samples or whatever. Those go on to this port right here, the BN port. Yeah, Judy, I know you keep those. And it locks into place. See, nothing comes off. Another test. So it's pretty straightforward. The other side of the XM generator, there's two connections. I have a USB port. That's the little square one. That's what this goes to. And then the flat end of this goes to your computer. And then you have the power supply, and that goes in this little hole here next to it. Ready to go on this one. There's a gotcha in this we're going to talk about in a minute. So let me go back to share everything. Share screen. So I covered this. See, I just covered this stuff. So everything locks into place. See the pins. And this seems really simple, but trust me, some people don't realize that. They just don't. And that's the reason I cover it in here. It made a difference. Now, what if you don't have enough USB ports? Well, that's what a USB hub is for. So in this case, this one I have here, this connects to one USB port on the computer. It has 4 ports in it. It's not the best one I like. I actually put a link into one. It's a TP link. It's a 7-port. It's powered. It's about $25. Well worth it. That's a really nice one to get from Amazon. Spooky also sells them. If you're buying something new, you could consider that. I prefer to get my own. I worry about some of the components with Spooky. I think the generators and all that are great. I'm not as sold on the cables, which you have no choice on, and not on the USB extender as well. I have a USB extender, a hub. I have a USB hub, and I replaced it because I was having some weird generator problems. And I have more generators anyway at this point. So that's what that is. So let me see if we have anything. Let's see. What else do I have here? Oh, so the other thing is the GX generator, which is the silver one, and I'd show you that one, but it's in use right now, and that's why I'm testing my my peptides on. So I don't want to bring it over here. This has its own power supply, but it has this neat label on it. Okay, it's different. And Spooky, in their infinite wisdom, so this is the connector for the USB or for the blue generator. Guess what? It's the same connector. So you can use the wrong one if you're not careful. So be careful about that. Will it burn it up? Probably not. But you don't want to do that. I mean, it actually the GX Pro will not run on the on a blue generator power supply. Will not run. The blue generator probably will run because things are pretty tolerant on this one. But just look at the label, and only the one for the Gen X is labeled. The other one doesn't have any labels on it at all. So be sure you're using the right one. So we've talked about that. All right. So let me see if we have any hardware connection things. What time is it? Yeah. My Q&A. I'll get that later. No power. Transgenders overheat. No, they generally don't. I mean, oh yeah, I've run mine that somebody was saying it's 40 degrees a few days in Oz. I've lived in Phoenix a lot. I've lived in places that get warm. They are especially the silver generator runs warm. Just make sure it has enough ventilation. That's all you need to worry about. Most electronics today can run up to about 60 centigrade. So, 40 is not a problem for it, as long as they have good ventilation. So you don't want to don't use them under a pillow or that sort of stuff. Make sure it's got ventilation. It'll be fine. And like I said, if you touch I've seen people talk about, I put my hand on my silver generator and it seems to be really hot. If it didn't burn you, it's fine. That's what it boils down to. So I answered that one. Done. Same point we use for contact paths. I'm not sure with your question, Bonnie. I'll come back to your question, Bonnie. Okay. All right. So testing your hardware. Testing your hardware is pretty simple. All you need to do is you're going to run. You're going to hook up the boost and you're going to hook up the remote, and you are going to run. Where is it? So you're going to hook up the boost, and this is the directions, and you're going to presets tab miscellaneous generator signal test. That's what you're going to run. You're going to put that on that generator, and you're going to test it. And what should happen is the boost has two little LED lights here, and this is important. And they flash back and forth when you're running the test. Now, there's a couple of really interesting things about that. Number one, test them one at a time because it's like, well, I'm not sure which one's 4 and which one's 5 or 6. When this one's flashing, it's hey, that's 6. Do you see this here? It says 5. It says 5 for a reason. I want to know that this is generator 5. I don't want to have to figure it out later. So when I do the signal test, I label the generators, and that's just a little white thing that we get for our fingernails. I just stick it on there and put the generator number on. That's all I do. It's really important. It's even more important on the silver generators because there are two of them in there, and they don't always. 3 isn't always generator 1, and 4 isn't always generator 4. I don't care. I'm going to go test generator 3 or the first one in it. I'm going to hook things up. And the one that's flashing, that's generator 3, 4, whatever it is, it gets a label. And so I have labels on all mine. Trust me, you'll be happy if you do that. Otherwise, you're going to get confused. But the other thing to know about is these nifty flashing LEDs, they work really good for generator signal tests. However, as the frequency changes, they flash faster. As they change even more, they flash so fast they look like they're on, but a little dimmer all the time. As the frequency gets even higher, they don't even flash. What that means is you cannot depend on those to know whether it's working or not. So don't worry about it. If you have any doubts about whether it's working, run generator signal test. If it's flashing, everything's good. Don't worry about what they're doing the rest of the time. And I cover that because I see that a lot in Facebook. Let's see what else we have here. So let's go back to Q&A. Do we have any other questions for this? Where is the preset tab? Okay, I need to start Spooky. Hang in a second while we wait for Spooky to come up. Searching for generators. Still won't find any. This only takes a minute. This is actually a really fast computer. It's a used computer, but I just bought it because I couldn't. My eyes have gotten too bad. My little 14-inch screen wasn't enough anymore. So this is 17-inch screen. So if you buy a cheap computer, you buy those $140 refurbished ones, this can take a minute or two to come up. This is an i7. It's really fast. So this takes 30 seconds to come up. And of course, it was a $750. So, it's $600 more. So if you want to save, if you want to save a minute and a half every time you start Spooky, which is very seldom. Okay, so this is the presets tab. So when you when you start Spooky, it actually comes up in the presets tab. And what I was suggesting, presets tab, miscellaneous folder, and down here it says generator signal test. Click on that. I still need to hide those meeting controls. Let me move this out of the way. So I load that. I can put that into a generator. And by the way, if you start your Spooky and you're expecting, if you get this screen, it hasn't found any generators. You ignored that message. It said, "Oh, I didn't find any." This is test mode. So it gives you, well, these are all the generators I can conjure up for you. And so these aren't real generators. If you expect these, you can run them like they are, but they don't do anything. So I'm going to put this generator 1 and do a start, and it's going to load the frequencies, and then it's going to run 4. And if I had a real thing on this, the remote would be flashing back and forth on the end. That's what that is. So let's go back to and Q&A. That should answer that question. Where's the preset tab? No, I didn't that. Okay. Oh, and she's answering that one as well. The gray control knob at the top of the generator. No, that's on the XM generator. The XM generator is totally controlled by the software. None of that crap makes any difference. Don't worry about any of it. It's all taken care of by the software. Not a problem. That one, which What version of Windows is required for the January update? Spooky runs on XP. I've done it. I haven't done it lately, but it'll run on an XP computer. For the most part, I recommend Windows 7 and up, but it'll run on any Windows computer 7 and up with no trouble. I wouldn't run on 8 because I hate 8, but it'll run on all those. It's not a problem. So that won't be a problem for you. So I've done. Cha, 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 cha. Oh, let's see. If you unplug it, they keep the same names. The answer to that is yes. When they plug them back in, it should keep the same number as it had before. So if it was generator 7 before, once it sees it again, it should still be generator 7. I answered that one. Well, wait a minute. No, I didn't. Which Windows version is best? Uh, any will work. That's the best way. Actually, in many ways, I prefer 7. I'd never use 7 because I always want to show people what they probably have, which is 11 right now. But it'll run on any of them. It doesn't, the amount of resources it takes is almost nothing. It'll run fine on any of those. It's not a problem. I've run it on a 1 gig Windows 7. I think that's what I'm running my bedroom one on. So don't worry about that. If you have Windows, it'll work. Peptides, I'm not answering. How do you change the generator number? I will leave that up and we'll talk about it later because there is a way to do it. And I have a really nice YouTube video that shows you how to do it because I like my own generator names. So that's what I do. Okay, back to this. All right, so we did that. Okay, the last thing we're going to talk about is running detox. Once you have all this up, you've done the tests and all that. Now, my recommendation is you put your fingernail in between a couple white stickers, put your initials on it and today's date, and stick it in the remote. Okay. And then what you do, let's see, just go forward. We're going to the presets tab, green home button, detox terrain. What that looks like is this is we're going to go to the presets tab. We're going to the green home button, that one. We're going to go down here to where it says detox. We're going to say terrain protocol, and you've probably heard a lot about that. We're going to just run remote. How am I going to deliver this? And I'm going to run terrain R. And if you'll notice, actually almost everything, all the presets in Spooky that's supposed to be on remote is in R versus if we're going to do contact mode, notice they're all C's. Those are contact mode. That way you can tell. We're going to say remote, terrain. We're not going to put all the details of what these are at this point. I'd be running terrain at this point. We're going to go into control tab. We're going to put it into a generator. This is a fake generator in the and we're going to hit start. And when we do this, this is now going to run for 11 days straight. Okay. While it's running for 11 days straight, I don't recommend you do anything else with the Spooky. What I would do for those 11 days, that's a time to watch videos, read books, and see what your Spooky can do while it's doing this stuff. And what it's going to do is this one remove metals. It's actually going to run this for 24 hours, even though it says an hour and 5 minutes. It's going to run for 24 hours. And when this gets done in 24 hours, it's going to move to number 2. That's what this preset stuff is. There's actually 15 presets in this. This is your first experience with a chained preset. Well, Jay, 11 days, there's 15 presets. That's because some of the presets only run for 12 hours. We're not going to go into the details, though, but you just watch this. And what you'll see in here, and I always cover this, is there's a couple things down here to see what it's doing. Number one, it says dwell 58, 59 of 180. That's because it's going to run this frequency for 180 seconds. And it's counting up to 180 seconds. That's what it's doing. When it gets, or whatever this number this is, because some things are run more or less. When it gets done with that, it's currently on step 1 of 19. There's 19 frequencies in here, and we're on number 1. Once this hits 180, this is going to advance to 2 of 19. And it'll be on this one. And it's going to do that for 180 seconds. And when it gets done with that, it's going to go to the next one. When it gets done with all 19, then, normally what will happen is it'll go to the next preset. Not in this case. This is special. They've got some other things in it. It's going to run this for an entire day. That's what it's going to do. And then when it's done with that day, it'll go on to number 2. That's the way it works. Let's see what this says. That we did that. And yep, that's what we're going to do. Now, let me see what we have left in here. Let's see, Q&A, and then we're going to go into real QA in a minute. Peptide, generator number. I'll talk about, oh, yeah, that's actually good. What if the power goes out? That's a really good one for when you're doing terrain because it's going to run for 20, it's going to run for 11 days. That's easy, by the way. That's one of the nice things that people don't realize. So if something happens to this and the power goes out, so when the computer comes back on, you're going to start Spooky and it's going to come up and nothing's going to be running. If you go into here, global, there is a resume in global. You click on resume, and all the generators will pick up where they left off because Spooky does an excellent job of keeping track of what it's doing. And so, it's currently running at step whatever, and it won't matter. You do a resume, it resumes all the generators. Or if you want to do them one at a time, you could select generator 3, which actually has stuff in it, and you click this little skinny button here. That's a resume. But you'd have to do that for each one you want to do. Generally, when I just do a resume all, I have a lot of power problems where I live, and so it's not uncommon for me to have to do that. So again, that's global resume, and that's what you do if you have a power outage. It's really easy to do. They really thought that was a really good one they thought about. Okay, so I took care of that. Done. Uh, steps went too fast. Steps. I think what you're asking about is here in step. So step, I don't want to go look at this one and get it out of the way. We go back to here. So down here, this is dwell. Dwell is how many seconds into this 180 for this frequency. Step is which frequency of this number are you on? There's 19 of them. We're on step 2. And then finally, preset. There are 15 presets in this chain preset. We're on the first one. So let's see. All right. So and then there's another one here. Are there any cases where you should not run terrain? The only case that's really a good one is if you have cancer and you're going to run Cancer DB, Cancer DB has its own detox in it. And it's a lot more thorough than the remote one we're looking at here. So if you're going to do Cancer DB, run that one. Other than that, for most people, you should start off with detox. Okay, done. Is it possible to run a detox or binder program during terrain? Well, terrain is a detox, so I don't understand that. But some people like to take binders, but I don't know anything about that. Other healing programs, and there is actually you can get away with running some healing programs. You should not run any healing programs while you're doing a detox, while you're doing this detox, because the intent of this is to clean your system out. So as you kill stuff, your kidneys and liver and all that have a way to handle that. There is a Herxheimer helper program that you can run on another generator if you're getting Herx reactions. I'd recommend that you take a look at some of the really good presentations on terrain that talk about in detail about all this stuff. Remember, this is a brief overview, believe it or not, of this stuff, and that's why I didn't talk about all the different options and all that. Okay. Can you run 2 individuals? Yes, you can. You can actually. It's really common. You can take your whole family's fingernails, put them in separate little white stickers, and stick them in the remote and run them all at the same time. You can do that for any program you're running. As long as you want to run the same exact thing, you can put multiple fingernails in there. I'll talk about X Pro, about standalone. That we'll talk about that in a few minutes. What is age factor since it's on this one? That's a way for you to tell it to run faster. Great for testing. It's bad for anything else. There's a reason that the authors of this set this up to run for 180 seconds. I don't want to run it in 10 seconds. If I'm trying to test something to see what it does when it switches or whatever, that's what age factor is. Normally, you leave that as a 1. Okay. And yes, you have a GX Pro, or you can do it with an XM. You can run terrain on remote for as many people as you can fit stickers in, which is about 8, into the remote. So just put their fingernails between 2 white discs and throw them in at the same time, but everybody gets the same stuff there. I'll come back. Well, no, I won't. When I'm running terrain, I need to disconnect the generator so I can take my laptop to work. Can I pause the train program and unhook the generator? Yeah, you actually can. When we return to home, can I hook up the generator and resume the train program? Yes, you could do that. But, well, yeah, you can do that. I wouldn't. I think you're going to, especially, well, terrain isn't that big of a deal, but obviously, if you pause it for 12 hours, then it's going to take more than 11 days. But the problem you're going to run into is anything else. When you're using remote stuff, you actually need to run that 24 by 7. And that's why everybody will recommend you get your own computer for Spooky. You shouldn't be using the same one. The Spooky, while Spooky doesn't use a lot of resources, it does use some resources. And other things won't affect Spooky much, but it can affect what you're doing because of the way it does it. So, for 150 bucks, you can get a rebuilt one from Amazon. For less than 100, you can get some off of eBay. If you look in your closet, your friend's closet, you can probably get one for free. That's what I'd recommend you do. It's better to have its own. That's the best way to put that. I talked about age factor already. Um, yes, that's this is a question about terrain. There's a terrain minus mercury, and that's if you have mercury fillings. They recommend you do that. Again, that's a more detailed one. But yes, if you have mercury fillings, run terrain minus mercury instead of the full terrain. I'm going to get to that. I got a test mode. Uh, oh, does terrain require to stay with Spooky for 11 days? No, that's why you run a remote. Remote uses what's it called? See, apparently my thing for my memory isn't working that well. Whatever it's called. Anyway, there's a term for a technical term for your DNA, and so what's doing the remote sends frequencies to your DNA, and and that gets to you anywhere you are in the world. Literally, you do not have to be in the same room. You don't have to be in the same house. You don't have to be in the same country. They've actually proved that. Oh, I wish I could think of the name of it. It works. They've done this stuff with stuff in space on the space station. They know they can change stuff on Earth that affects stuff in the space station. So no, you do not need to be there with the Spooky. Um, yes, the question: can you put fingernails remote of people with more severe conditions than everyone else? I don't have a problem with that. Some people are worried about it. I don't see a problem with that. It's not going to transfer stuff between DNA so that you'd have the same problem. I would do that in a heartbeat. That's not a problem. What happened to it advanced on me. Dang it. Generate number. Nope, I'm not gonna do that. Nope, I'm gonna do that. Yes, we did that one. Okay. A pause button. Can I get to that? How long can you pause it? You can pause it forever. Because when you pause it, it's not running anymore. You can reboot the system at that point, and if you reboot the system and you restart Spooky, you just do a global resume. It's not a big deal. So you can pause it as long as you want. Okay, so now let me go back to my presentation. This one, we've answered a bunch of those, and let's resume. Um, we talked about that. That's a summary of that, of the things we've done. Okay, and we're going to get to general Q&A in just a second. I'm sorry this has gone so long, but there's so much to talk about. So I do one-on-ones in case this didn't make sense or I went too fast or whatever. And again, down here at the bottom, spookytechelp@gmail.com. If you want to do a one-on-one, send me something and we'll work something out of when I'm available and when you're available. I do work on a donation basis. So my focus is people need to be able to use their Spooky. You wouldn't have spent the money on the Spooky if you didn't need it. That's the way I see it. Some people have spent their last dollar on the Spooky, literally. I don't want that to be a problem. So it's donation basis based on your view of value and your financial status. So that's not a problem. And I've done everything. What I don't do is I don't give practitioner advice. Oh, which program should I run to cure myself of cancer? I cannot answer that. I do not have the experience for that. I can help you on the Cancer DB. I can help you to figure out what things you like. That's not a problem. But I don't do that on this stuff. I just don't. And you should get a survey link, or maybe it's immediate. It's really helpful if you fill that out. That way Spooky knows that I have value. Okay, so, all right. There's a couple things. Facebook group, they write for life. That is worthwhile. We're really good there. We're pretty good at answering questions and discussing whatever. Um, this my YouTube channel is at Spooky Tech Help, and I think I have about 50 videos out there now. I've got a bunch of them out there. And all and so there's copies of my presentations, but there's also little things like where we talked about tonight. Hey, I would just update the peptide presets. How do I do it? I just actually did an 11-minute video today on that because the process changed. So that's out there. How do I do just install Spooky? That's actually a 10-minute video that's out there right now. So there's a bunch of that stuff out there, plus my previous presentations and all that. I have a Telegram group, which I look at several times a day, and that's it. Spooky Tech Help, the Telegram in. Again, my email, and I have PDFs of all my presentations and my worksheets. I don't do worksheets all the time, but Cancer DB is actually a really good example. It's not hard to do, but there's a lot of steps. So I actually created about 5 or 6 worksheets so you can keep track of what to do and how to do it and all that sort of stuff. That's really helpful if you're doing the Cancer DB protocol. User's guide. Click on the help pull down in Spooky Software. That's where it is. The quick start guide, you got that in hard copy. Spooky2 Academy events, event list. That's where all the weekly events are posted. Sign-ups and watch of the videos after they've been put up there. Vimeo, that's where all the videos live these days. You can still find stuff from Spooky on YouTube, but they don't. Most of the stuff they're putting in Vimeo these days, and it's probably best to get the either Vimeo or through the Academy to see stuff. Okay, but there is stuff on YouTube. I mean, but this uh, message in yellow. When I got my scaler, it's like, oh, I need to watch a video or hook it up. So I found one by John White. It's like, geez, he ought to know. So I watched it, and so we're about 3 minutes into it. I'm going, how come that machine doesn't look like mine? That's because they changed it. And the video is like 6 years old. It's like, okay, so that's why I'd only look at videos that were 2023 and later, because there's some really, if you want to see historical stuff, there's some historical spooky out there, but you won't have that hardware. You won't have the software either. Okay, so closing summary, video available usually by Friday. You're welcome to email me on any topic. And now we get to general Q&A. Now, this is where we go back to Q&A, and I go through these things in sequence. Okay, does Windows Update interrupt Spooky2 running treatment? Yes. If it when it does, not all of them do it, but if it needs to reboot, then that's it. That's why you need to either turn off update, or turn off Wi-Fi, because otherwise at 1 in the morning it's going to reboot the dang computer and your Spooky is going to stop. So yes, it does interrupt the Spooky running treatment because it reboots the computer. Otherwise, it wouldn't. And so live, anonymous. What does a BNC cable going from the transmitter? What does the BNC cable go? Where? Sorry, from the transmitter when using two Spooky2 boosters and remotes. Well, where does the BNC cable? I don't know what you mean by BNC cable. I mean, you usually don't use BNC cables in Spooky. Now, if you're talking about this, I mean, you can only hook up one of these per boost, so you can only use one remote or one whatever else you're doing at a time. So one generator is one thing. So I think so. If you have two Spooky2 boosters and with 2 remotes, which is also one silver, then you could do 2 different things at the same time, but only one peripheral. So only one remote, only one contact, only one PEMF coil, and that's one treatment thing. Okay, Leanne, I'm using my friend's Gen X to do BFB. How do I move this to my own computer so I can use my own computer and XM? Well, actually, I did. That was my December presentation. You can go out and look for my December presentation. It was on Spooky2 data, I think. It's not hard to do, but and if you can't figure it out or find out, send me an email and I'll send you some links to it, because I don't want to. I don't really do in the links here. I could, but I really don't want to. And I got enough to do now. So if you'll send me that, it's not hard to do. It's just a matter of copying a couple files or however you want to do it. But there's several different ways to do that. And I demoed. I think I demoed using here's a USB stick and here's what you need to copy it and that sort of stuff. So go ahead and do that. Andre, is there a setting where Spooky tell me to place? Oh, where to connect and make a scan. No. Um, okay, is there a setting where Spooky will tell me where to place the pads? Nope. So if you're gonna do pen stuff, you want to place it so the frequencies are going between the pads, going through whatever you're working on. So if you have a liver problem, I do front and back, wherever your liver is, because I don't know, I can't remember. If you have um, if you have small intestine problems, I'd probably put that on the side to go through there. So the intent of TENS pads placement is over the area you want to test. Now, there's only a couple caveats. You should not use the TENS pads above your shoulders. So any head things are going to be here at the top of your shoulders, right and back. That's where you're going to stick those. And you should not position them so you're running electricity through your heart. That's probably good advice. So keep that in mind. Other than that, that's what I do. And tell me, what do you use to have treatment on short-term basis than on long-term? I don't know what you mean by that. I mean, I use the same thing all the time. If you're doing healing, it takes a while for it to use. I mean, but I use the same treatment whether it's short term or long term. So I hope that makes sense. If not, please ask. Please clarify. Yummy. I'm interested in playing two different frequencies. Something low hertz. What's the pot? I'm interested in playing two different frequencies simultaneously, high and low hertz. What's a proper and cost-effective setup for that? Well, I don't understand exactly what you mean. You can use a single generator and put multiple programs on it, so they go sequentially one after another. That's a possibility. Or obviously, if you're trying to do something more special, you could use more than one generator. So I don't know from a program point of view. Most people use multiple programs, and that's the way they handle that sort of stuff in a single generator. And so I mean, if you have serious conditions, then you tend to use multiple generators, and that way you get more times through the frequencies on each generator. I hope that made sense. Probably didn't. I'm not sure it made sense to me. Okay. Where's the link to get the DH programs? That's at spooky2.com/downloads page. It's scroll down a little bit there, and there's a download and install the DH experimental ones. That's where that is. So you shouldn't have a problem doing that. It's pretty straightforward. I've spent a fortune on peptides and they work. Ooh, I like that. They are chains of amino acids that are usually naturally occurring in the body and wane over time. Well, I appreciate that comment. And yeah, the feedback I've seen on the peptides has been phenomenal. It's been very good. Yeah. What amazes me about Spooky is they're not charging for this. I'll be honest. I mean, if you haven't figured out, I'm not a Spooky employee. And I don't really get anything for saying this, but I mean, it's like, I'm considering buying more because I can see using a bunch of the peptides. And I've been going through the peptides and I've come up with about 20 I want to run. And a lot of them are on my friends. And it's like, usually I do stickers for that. But it's like, I really want to try them on there. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. So, but they're really cool. And that's why I inserted it in this presentation and why it's gone so long at the moment. I downloaded a version of the pet. Please send me an email about the peptide PDF. I will make sure that I put it somewhere where everybody can get it. I know what was going on, but I don't know. I did an update on mine, and I assumed it got updated as part of it. But one of the things that happens when you do an update, it doesn't throw away what you have. So I may have gotten it from an earlier update. I don't know. And I can't answer that question in real time mode. So send me an email and I'll send it to you and I'll find out what's going on with it to see if they're going to maintain that because they really should. Because the search facility in presets is virtually unusable in my opinion. And so we need a way to do searches and all that. And having a PDF of everything is the way to do it. How do you calculate the frequency in hertz from a molecular weight? That's a research question. It's not hard to do. There are presentations on that. If you can't find those, send me an email and I'll send you. Let's see, I can't remember. Do I have a presentation on that? I might have done a YouTube on that. I can't remember. I haven't played with it in about a year because I usually don't bother. I mean, I find everything is pretty much in the molecular weight database, but not always. So if you can't, like I said, there are presentations on it. I didn't like them, but that's not unusual for me. If you can't find it, let me know and I will send you some stuff on it because You look it up, but I can't even remember where the site is where they give you the molecular weight. I mean, there's a website you go to, you find the stuff in the molecular weights listed. So that's what you do. Okay, so um, oh, by the way, and you don't have to calculate the hertz. You put it in as M and what the molecular weight is, and Spooky calculates that. You don't have to worry about that. That's why those, and when we look at the peptides, when we look at peptides here, this other way, presets, home, JW peptides, remote, and acid reflux, which is on my mind at the moment. And we put this in generator 3 and see all these M's because that's the actual molecular weight of whatever we're trying to do. And Spooky figures out what the actual frequency is going to be. You don't have to do that. You just need to know the molecular weight. Okay. Yeah, the peptide PDF, please send me an email and I will send it to you and I'll find out how that's going to be maintained because it's important to me. Which Windows version the best? I prefer Windows 7 because it's faster. Having said that, there's and I do use Windows 7 on one of my Spooky computers, but you use whatever you have, so it's not a problem. It'll run on XP all the way back, so it doesn't really matter. That's the best way to put it. Victoria, when you set up a chain of peptides, must they be related? No, you can do anything you want, but let's talk about how many you want to do at once. So if I have one like this acid reflux I'm running, if I run that 24/7, I'm running these 6 programs 24/7. If I add some other ones into it, no, I'm not running them 24/7. No, maybe I'm only running acid reflux for 12 hours a day. I mean, it's alternating. And if I add 34 more, you can see that the math gets interesting. So that's one of the reasons I'm doing this so selectively at this point is I'm trying to find out what works and what doesn't. But the reality, however, is that I'm certainly going to do more than one when they get around to it. But my recommendation is to keep it to as few as possible on a generator to get the most effect. And then once you know it works, then you can add more. The general rule for stuff is that you do about a total of 4 hours of programs, but that doesn't apply to this. There's no easy way. I'll see if I can figure out a way to do that. But if you look at this is going to run, estimated run is 18 hours, 18 minutes, I mean. And so I could do a bunch of these. And one of the problems with chaining is these numbers are wrong. They doesn't take into consideration all the presets. So it's difficult to figure out how long they're going to run. I won't lie to you. So it's, don't go wild with it. Don't try to cure all 24 things that are wrong with you in one time. Pick 1 or 2 and stick with it. Make sure it works. And then you can add things later or set up on another computer. Hopefully, but no, it doesn't matter. If you want to do one for acid reflux and one for stinky feet, all in the same, you can. It's not a problem. Okay, and peptides, is there a setting to run on plasma? Yes. No. Okay, so peptides for the most part are healing, which by the way means they take longer. Peptides don't directly kill anything, and that's the difference in normal spooky stuff. Healing and killing. Killing means I'm running a frequency that's supposed to go out and shatter the cells or whatever it is of this thing. That's killing. So it involves a pathogen. With peptides aren't like that. Peptides are frequencies to encourage you to make more T cells or whatever. So actually, they're all healing. And you're going to use the preset itself. So don't worry about healing and killing. It doesn't make any difference. You're going to load something for a peptide and run it. Okay. So that's the way that works. So don't sweat that. It's actually all healing. But it's all built in because it's a factory preset. Can you add peptides to other programs? No. No, you can't. You could chain them together, but the problem is that the way, and I illustrated that earlier. If we go look at this, the way that did I do that? I did. Do I have any of this? Nope. So that means I want this one. So this is my acid reflux. The way that the programs are running is very different than what we're used to. It's only doing them for a second a piece, and it's it has a little pause between them and all that. So no, they're not compatible with that. If you want to do that, you either need to run them on a separate generator, or you can chain things together. So those are your options for that. Okay, where did I find the beta test? Well, the beta test is actually this um, cancer clinic. Yeah, co.nz. That is that's the beta test. Go to downloads there, and you can do that. And this is all documented in the videos I made of how to get that stuff. And you ought to watch the video, because when you, at least in Edge, when you go to download that update, you get even more ugly security messages that you have to respond to correctly. Okay, I'm not sure I can answer biofeedback. I can. I'm running biofeedback on GenX on one laptop, and all my XMs I want to run are on another computer. Please give me the file folders I should copy GenX computer. Well, what happens is when you save your biofeedback, it saves to a file called bfb underscore frequencies.csv in C/spooky2. And you can just copy that over. However, when you do that, it replaces anything on your target computer. So if you've been doing anything over there, then they're going to be overwritten. Now, if you just have XMs over there, you're not doing it, it will be fine. But what you really should do is you should rationally watch the. I did one on spooky data last month, and it covers all this, because there's other ways to do it as well, which have other advantages. But it talks about, what if you were doing things on the computer? How do you merge them together? That's what that was all about. So, and maybe Zara can put in the link for that. Maybe I can show you that link. What am I doing here? And Spooky2 Academy. Spell Spooky2Academy.com events. If I could get it to come up, it did. So this is that one was, what's her name? I can't think of it. So these are the upcoming ones. And if we look down here, hey, we should do this one. Oh, that's what we're doing now. We look at see all events, and these are still the upcoming Spooky Scalar, Strong Immunity, Mastery, New Spooky, Margellans. At the beginning of December, I still have to watch that. Almost there, page 2. And I don't like the search in this, so I'll try not to go. I'll try. This is it here. This one here. This is Spooky for Beginners, managing your spooky data. That's what this is about. It's exactly what it's about. Is how you do that, because I do that. I mean, I have 3 generators, 3 spooky systems at home, because in my living room is where I have my GenX, my GenX Pro. That's where I do my biofeedbacks, and that's where I do my plasma treatments and contact treatments. I have a really nice recliner in there. But if I want to do remote treatments, that's in my office area. So I got to move all that data over there and handle that. That's what that's about. So you really need to watch that. If you have any questions, then you need to send me something, and we'll I can answer the questions. But start there. It's more complex than what I can cover here. Okay. Oh, it looks like Molly sent that out. Ooh, look, see, he's on the ball. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. So when I run an SP2, SP2 generator, sometimes the laptop goes off. Ooh, did the power. All right. Okay. So, Bobby, your first question is, it shouldn't power off. I mean, I don't understand why it's powering off due to no power in it. I mean, you could be like me. I have frequent power outages, and if that's the case, that's the case. However, what happens in the case if say, and what confused me, oh, your computer's turning off, but your generator's not. That indicates that you're running on battery all the time, which is not a good idea. You should have that laptop plugged in and running on AC in the wall all the time. Otherwise, it's going to run out of battery and turn off. Okay, next part. So remember, I talked about earlier how the Spooky software hawks the generator every second. Okay, and that's what it does. Well, what happens is the Spooky says, "Here, generator, do this frequency do this frequency," and then the computer comes back at 1 second later and says, "Here, do this frequency." Oh, and when it's time to change, it says, "Here, do this frequency instead." Well, if the computer goes away, the generator is going to continue doing whatever it was told to do last. That's what happens. So that's normal, but you need to solve this problem. You shouldn't be running your laptop on battery because it's going to run out in a couple hours, and so it needs to be plugged in. So I don't know the issues there, but that would be my advice. Is that the same point? Contact pads. Contact pads. Let me get this out. Let me get my boost. So your Spooky boost. This is this guy right here. Stop share. This is your Spooky boost. Your Spooky boost on top. This one here, the second one from the left. If you look at it, on light gray over dark gray, which I can't read it at all in this light, it says high power port, and that's where you generally hook up your contact mode. Is this one right here? And if it zaps you too much, then you can hook it up to this one. And earlier this year, I did something on contact mode. So you may want to look at that, but this is where you usually hook it up, that one right there. And of course, when you've got that hooked up, nothing else is hooked up to the thing. Okay? All right, done. All right, so let me go back to share screen. Guys, the peptides. Can I set peptides and other healing presets at the same time in the chain? Yes, you can. For example, run healing tinnitus presets on one generator. Oh, yes, you can certainly do that. You can run, if you have multiple generators, you can run different things for the same issue on different generators. If you want to run them on one generator, you need to chain them together. You run alone other healing, or should they be run alone? I'll be honest with you. Especially tinnitus is a great example. Actually, I've seen some really good stuff on tinnitus. I've seen really bad stuff on Spooky in general for tinnitus. At this point, because peptides are so new, if you're not talking about cancer, what I would be doing with it literally is I wouldn't do the normal Spooky stuff. I'd run peptides for a week and see if it solves it, because I want to know if it solves it. I really do. And so, and unless there's some reason that you need to run them both, that's what I would do. I'm at testing mode. Peptides are really new. They have great potential. Okay, I can see the potential with them, and I really want to try a bunch of them out, but I don't feel like I'll know if it works if I'm muddying the issue. So that's what I would personally do. That's what I am doing. Okay, summer. How do we change generator numbers? There's I actually have a video on that. And since it's really hard to post that in here, you really need to send me an email for that, and I'll send you a link. Or if you made a note in here, you can go to my YouTube page, and I have a demonstration on how to change them. It's not hard to do, but there's certain steps you follow, and shut down Spooky, and you bring up device manager and go in there. It's not hard to do. It's nice to have a video to follow. So that'd be the best way to handle that. How to get out of test mode to actual mode. Okay, so you're in test mode because when you started Spooky, there weren't any generators. Now, hopefully you know why there weren't any generators. Like I said, if they were working before and they're not now, it's because things weren't turned on or plugged in or whatever. If that's the case, then all you have to do is over here in this, you can go into, let me maximize this again. You can go into utils and do a rescan devices. And that does that rediscovery thing again. And now that you've turned them on, plugged them in, whatever it is, now it'll find them. That's the easiest way to get a test mode. Now, suppose you're brand new and it's not finding. It's not finding them probably because you didn't install the drivers. That stuff isn't built into Windows. The drivers need to be installed per the demonstration we did here, or the demonstration I did in November, so for it to see the drivers. If you have problems with that, email me and I'll give you some pointers or we'll do whatever so you can see them. Because if that's what test mode is, test mode just means, hey, you started spooky and I didn't find any devices. And so, that's a way around that. Hopefully that answers your question. Summer again. Can I put my husband's liquid sample in the same sample digitizer? No, no. Sample digitizer are one at a time. So if you're going to put your husband's blood in there, doesn't get to mix with yours. It doesn't work that way. Liquid samples are liquid samples. They go between the sample digitizer plates, and you only can do one person at a time. That's the way that works. And by the way, I really like the sample digitizer for hunt and kill. I look for tough stuff. It works really well. But you got to have a liquid sample, and yes, that sample needs to have the pathogen in it because that's what the uh, uh, biofeedback does with the XM. It looks for pathogens. So, and it's got to be in the sample. So, if you're looking for a urinary tract infection in your blood, you're going to be disappointed because it's not in there. It's in the urine. So that's what that does. Okay. All right. Leona. I put the boost unit on upside down. Yeah. Now you can't get it off. No, it's not on permanent now. Actually, somebody suggested needing those pliers and one of the things, again, if it's upside down, so it's upside down, and it's tough to get in there. But one of the things that happens, let me turn this back off so you can see this, is these little guys, these connectors, you can see it moving. If you move it out and then try to turn it, that makes it a lot easier. Because it has these little indents which you really can't see. I don't think. Yeah, you can almost see it. That so when you click it into place, it actually is a more positive pull. So if you pull them up, it disconnects that part. So do that, and if you have to, it's needleless fire time. That's the best I can offer for you there. So done, and it's not on permanent. There is no permanent. So that's a lie. I'll let that answer that. Let's do a share screen again. So if I understand it, if I'm running the FISS peptide for a cat, yeah, the GX is going to be more effective. Yes, that's my understanding because they're higher frequencies, and that doesn't mean that the XM won't work, but the GX is going to be more effective at it. That's the best way to put it. And I'd try both. It depends on what you have and what's available. If I was treating cancer, I'd be using the GX if I could. I mean, that's because it's a tough one. When terrain is done running, well, tell you the frequencies you need. Nope. When terrain did not tell me if it would run for 11. Oh, well, it does run for 11 days. It's off every day and a half. Okay, so yeah. So no, it doesn't tell you the frequencies you need. Terrain, its purpose in life is detox. It's sending frequencies to help clean up your liver and your kidneys and kill some parasites and that sort of stuff. That's what it's doing. As a matter of fact, nothing tells you the frequencies you need. Well, they sort of do. Biofeedback will give you the 10 frequencies that your pathogens most responded to. So people get stuck on doing reverse lookup on things to find out what's wrong with them. Well, it doesn't work that way. When you run biofeedback, it gives you 10 frequencies. And if you do a reverse lookup, it looks for those 10 frequencies in all the programs in the world. And there's a lot of shared frequencies, so it gets all kinds of interesting things. Oh, look, you have uterine cancer. Well, I don't have a uterus, so I probably don't have uterine cancer. And so it's one of those sort of things. Now, on the other hand, my view of biofeedback is you run it, it gives you 10 frequencies. You need to take those 10 frequencies, put them into a killing shell, and run them because those are the ones that the pathogens are responding to. So I don't really care what they're part of. They need to go. That's really the way I look at it. Right. So yes, you figure out how to restart terrain. Okay, good. Rick, a scalar and the GX Pro with some other optional devices. Wow. I can't, so you're looking to purchase some sessions. I can't give you that. I don't know. Um, I we don't function that way. Spooky doesn't for a whole bunch of legal reasons and other reasons. So I can't really tell you that. If I like the scalar, although I'll be honest with you, my priorities when I I had a friend who had Spooky, and so my first Spooky purchase was I got a GX and I got two XMs. That's what I bought, and I knew wanted that because of the way I wanted to use it, and I was happy with that. And and after the over the next 5 years, I added some more blue generators, XMs, because most of the time that's what you want to do. You want to add more XM generators if at all possible. So that's what I tend to do for that. Blur. Okay. So, what I would do, what I would do is, if it were me, you could buy the you could buy the single blue kit and play with it there, and then add the GX Pro and scale later. So what I did is I did that. My next purchase was I bought the plasma. I bought the plasma because I worry about major illness. The plasma is much better at killing than anything else, and killing is what I worry about the most. If you want to do cancer, you can sort of do that with the scalar, but I don't see that it's not as effective. If you want to kill cancer, you need the plasma. So I, and I like my scalar, but my scalar was my third big purchase, and I did that almost 2 years after I got the plasma. So personally, if you're looking to spend in a bunch of money, get the plasma. And if you just want to play, you get the single generator or a double generator, and trust me, you will use those things. That's not a problem. One of the things with Spooky that anybody can tell you, you can't have too many generators. And the reason you can't is because you're doing stuff for you that you want more than three or four generators on, and for your family and maybe your friends. And it just gets bigger and bigger all the time. So hopefully that answers your question. Matthew, what's the best set of spooky equipment to run peptides without considering budget? Well, I believe the GX Pros are the best for peptides. I would certainly do that. Actually, I'm considering buying another GX Pro because I want to do that. But from a peptide point of view, the GX Pro is going to be your best bet. Although, if you did like me and you got a GX Pro Essentials kit or whatever it is, and then added a couple of blue generators, the blue generator remote kits are only $166 plus shipping each. So it's easy. And that's why most of us, when we add stuff, we add a bunch of blue generators. I think I'm up to 20 of them at the moment. And they will work. But if it depends on what you're trying to do. But yes, the GX is going to do the best job of it. Okay, answer line. Let's see. Leon, I got it. I had to get a magnifying glass. See what's going on. Oh, you got your boost off there. Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. Jennifer, um, is there any illustration photos of somebody getting a contact treatment? I don't know. I haven't seen any. Well, there Spooky does have some stuff in there. Actually, if you go to, can I do this in here? Spooky. Where are you? I can't remember where you forum. No, no, no. Where are you? I just put you somewhere. No, that's not it. Um, I'll bet you it's in here. It's in the blog. If we go to the blog, let me move this down a little so I can see it. That's Berkana. Okay, Spooky 2. So Spooky 2. That's what I want, the blog index. The blog index probably has some stuff in it that we would have. Minimize that. No, close that. So, if the online, there may be some examples in there. That's scalar, understanding Rife advice, frequency healing, molecular weight, biofeedback scan, users. I don't know. There's got to be some stuff in there. I mean, and if you look, if you ask on the Facebook group, Kirsten has a really nice picture of where to put pads for various things. So I'm not sure what you're asking for. So, but that's where I would tend to be looking for this stuff. Q&A. Okay. I'm new. If I correct instructions to put the pads on after this BAP, what will the screen tell me? Oh, No, once you do a BFB, what's going to do is going to give you a list of 10 frequencies. That's what you do. You're going to save that. Then you're going to load a killing preset, add those frequencies to it, and run it. That's what you're going to do. So it doesn't do a whole bunch. It by default gives you 10, but it's not going to, it doesn't identify problems. It's not what it's for. You can do something called a reverse lookup where it can find you programs that are using some of those frequencies, but now, gee, if it gives you 50 or it gives you none, but it gives you 50, well, which ones should you use? So it's interesting. And I do use reverse lookup, but I only use reverse lookup if I have a cold or like if I'm treating my mother-in-law who has cancer. Um, I'll do a biofeedback and I'll look and see, well, I'll do a reverse lookup and see what kind of cancer stuff I can find. I think that has value. And so that's reverse lookup. That's actually shown in most of the biofeedback training videos, and that's worth looking at if you want to do that. Okay, Mark, I want to treat my teeth with contact mode. Oh, that'd be interesting. Um, so I don't know what you're going to try with treat your teeth. If you want to do contact mode, the best you can do is here, back and shoulders. Um, however, there's a couple things I would suggest. Depending on what you're trying to do with your teeth, there's some really nice peptide stuff out there that would work there or in remote mode for having to do with regrowing teeth, which I don't see anywhere else. And there's a bunch of dental ones that look really interesting. You can also, and I've done this personally, I've done uh, tooth sort of stuff using the cold laser. And I've actually put the cold laser inside of my mouth against my gum or whatever. That's a possibility. And I've also used the PEMF coil for tooth problems where I'll stick it on the side of my face. So those are your best ones, I think, to go with. But TENS pads, you're looking at the back here. That's where you end up with those. Okay, how many peptides can you add into the chain and running them? How many is how many you want to do. The more peptides you put in, the more you're diluting the frequency. And because it's got to, instead of doing this peptide stuff for 48 times a day, you're only doing it 24 times a day or 12 times a day or whatever. And so you can add as many as you want, but the more you do that, the less those frequencies are going to get in there. I hope that answered that question. Edith, any suggestions on what type of remote for a friend a mass on lung? What should program? That's a difficult one. I mean, what I would do for that in general, number one, I would use a killing preset, a remote killing preset, and I tend to start when I do training presets, and then home, then shell, and then remote, and I tend to use either killing RJW, that one, or for tougher stuff, I use the universal square H bar. And then you'd go into programs and you're going to do a search for cancer or whatever. Let's do it for lung cancer because I know there aren't that many. So, there's a bunch of lung cancer stuff out there. Oh, shoot. Hang on. Let me turn this on for all my. So in here, you'd have to pick what you think is best. You double click on these. And so I've added 3 in there, runs for an hour and 24 minutes. And then you could go and you could you could go into the control tab and run it on any generator you want that has her nail clippings in it. So that's one way to do that. Okay. But there's a lot of other things out there as well. Remotes are probably not the best. They will help. I mean, there's lots of people out there that have gotten rid of their cancer just using remotes. So there's those. There's other sweeps that you can run. But that's where I'd be starting is if you knew what time I do a killing one, and I might do some sweeps on it as well. Again, you can send me an email and I can maybe give you some ideas there. Ellen, can you put your peptide presets in standalone? Oh, yeah, I talked about that. The answer to that is technically yes, practically no. The problem is if we go back to what this thing is running, where am I? I'm not there. If we go back here and we look at the control tab, the problem is it is running these frequencies, it's repeating them and all that sort of stuff. And it won't take long before you hit the actual physical limitations of your GX Pro offline. I might be able to do acid reflux, which only has 6 programs in it. That might work, but it won't do this switching and it won't do any of that. You have to run it and then stop it manually. So it's technically possible to do. I would not recommend it because I think it's more trouble than it's worth. And that's maybe something that you're going to have to talk to customer service about to see if somebody's going to document how to do this as standalone. I would not do that. I think you're going to be unhappy with it. Sorry, I can't be more help. Anonymous. If I don't want to buy a 17-inch laptop, there's a way to make the characters on the speaker bigger. It's easier to read. Yes, you actually can go into here in system, and I have mine the font size set to 12, and you can go up to 14, but then it has other problems. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it actually is in your computer. You can change the zoom amount so things look bigger. You can also change the resolution, but you don't want to go much lower than 1366 by 768. That's the best you can do. If you're really if you really can't see that much, then my advice is get an HDMI cable and hook it up to your TV as a monitor. You'll be able to see it then. And most computers support that and have for a long time. Okay, Jacqueline, I'm running the detox. Killing JW showing in my control panel. No, I'd have to see that. So you're running detox, but killing RJW, it's showing in my control panel under overwrite generator. Well, then now it all depends as what's selected. And so I'd actually have to see it. And if you sent me an email, if you decide to send me an email, take a picture of the control tab so I can see what you're actually doing. Because there's a lot of possibilities in that when it's running. Theoretically, it should be that, but you know, this is what's under settings. And you're talking about it here. Oh, that's right. Okay, so this is a label. This is just a joy. So what it amounts to is I can put for generator one, I can put a label that says generator one. And I'd spell it right, but I don't care. And I save it. And then anytime I look at generator one, it'll say generator one. It doesn't matter what it's running. The problem was when they built this field, what actually happened is the first time you brought this thing up and it didn't know what was in there, it just figured, I'll use the title of whatever I was loaded at the time. That's why it's saying killing RJW there. So all you have to do is you can go in this field, type in anything you want, hit, and it should be Fred. That doesn't drive me crazy. And save, and then it'll say Fred from now on. Or you can delete it all and save it. So that's all that means. That's what you're running on the generator when you went to the level of software that supports that. Nothing's perfect, but that's what you do. Sorry, it took me a while to get that one. Carol, I thought you said to run peptides one. No. So I thought you said to run peptides while online. Is it better there or run offline? What I mean by online or offline is whether or not the GX is actually hooked to the computer. They call that offline mode. Not a good choice in my opinion, but I didn't name it. And so in the context of a GX, it's whether it's hooked to the computer or not. That's online mode or offline mode. It has nothing to do with the internet. Hopefully that answered that question. Sylvie, let's see. So for example, if you're running frequencies to kill a fibros, you're going for a cat, but you send peptides to the heel as well. No, it's not either. You can do both. That's not a problem. You can either do it as a chain preset or you can use a second generator for that. So yes, that's not a problem. It's easier after everything's connected. What's next? How does the generator work and how do you start healing? Well, after everything's connected, the first thing you want to do is run detox. Okay, that's what you're going to do next. Actually, I would do that, and then to be honest, a week from today, what's her name? Debbie Rich from Australia is doing something on programs and all that. That's what you should attend next, because what you're going to do next, if I wanted to do some healing, let's assume I go into presets, home, and shell, and remote, and healing RJW, which I like. Then we need the programs, and I can pick some healing programs in here. which would not be viruses, because that's the whole point of this is healing is anything that's not a pathogen. So in the case of if it ever comes back, someday it'll come back. It's doing too much at the moment. So erasing negative thoughts, that's a healing. Um, Maybe some 7 chakras. See, I'm just double clicking on those and I can do any of these things. Um, some of these things are obviously going to be killing things, but I add these in. So I've added in, and now I can go to the control tab, overwrite generator, click a generator that's not in use, and do a start on it, and it'll run those frequencies. Start. That's how you do healing. If I want to do killing, I pick a killing one and pick whatever it is I want to kill. It's pretty straightforward. Okay, in the full peptide download, so do you need to go to the forum? No. So you can get, if you go and install to spooky2.com downloads page and install the current stuff, you'll get the first generation of peptides. If you want updates from there, you need to look at my second video because you have to get that from another site. And so it all depends on what you want to do. At this point, what I would recommend is I'd recommend starting with the January version at spooky2.com and see if what you want is in there. The reason is that I consider the other site as beta. And so beta test stuff, there's a greater chance there'll be a mistake in it that I didn't catch. So if you can do it with the vanilla stuff from spooky2.com, use it. If there's other things you want to look up, then install the update from there. And again, those videos are in the beginning of this. Okay. Next. When we did the 1/20 software update for peptides, it updated with 475. Yep. Yeah, it's been. And so you're not in the downloads page. So you want to update that. That was in the beginning, and you'll need to see the text. Send me an email, and I'll send you the link to this. So it's to the presentation, so you can see. There's a link to my YouTube video that goes through how to do updates to peptides. That's the easiest way to do that. It's more complex than I can show here. Okay, peptides and GX can they be chained or loaded remote? No. One of the problems. So regarding peptides and GX. Can they be chained and loaded in remote, meaning offline mode, so the computer doesn't have to be on 24/7? Here's one of the problems with the offline mode. Offline mode doesn't support, you can't do chains on it at all. So you'd have to load each one into a separate spot and then run it manually however you want it. Can I run a grade scan on the peptides? No, you can't run a grade scan. The main reason you can't run a grade scan on peptides is because the biofeedback scanning in Spooky2 is looking for pathogens, okay? Pathogens are not peptides. Peptides are something to encourage your body to do something. So no, that's an apples and oranges. It's not even apples and oranges. It's apples and concrete. They're totally unrelated. So no, you can't do a grade scan on peptides. When I ran the biofeedback, it gave me a lemon essential oil frequency. That's the confusion. Well, that's because it's a common frequency. That's all that means. That's one of the reasons, if you looked at my program, when I do a reverse lookup, generally, number one, I turn off biofeedback. I don't care about these frequencies, that I found before. I turn off custom. I don't care unless there's stuff I put in there that I want. I don't want to look there. I tend to turn off DNA because I think it's that accurate for DNA stuff. I always turn off molecular weight because I'm not scanning for ibuprofen or any of that stuff. And I turn off SD, which is where it may not be there. That's sample digitizer because those are things like essential oils and stuff. When I'm doing a biofeedback scan, it's scanning for pathogens. It's not scanning to find out if I need frankincense. So, I turn off a bunch because any of that stuff that's molecular weight or whatever, I just don't care about it. It doesn't mean anything to me. That's the reason I do that. So remember, when you're doing a biofeedback, it's looking for pathogens. So you only want to look in databases that have pathogens in it. Victoria. Peptides on the GX, can they be chained and loaded? No, I've covered this a couple times. The answer to that is you theoretically yes, practically no. So nope, you need to have the computer on 24 by 7. You just need to figure out how to do it. I mean, if you want to take the best advantage of Spooky 2 is you have a computer 24 by 7. That's just unfortunately the way it works. Bobby C. Can peptides for Spooky 2 interfere with peptides taken early? Like, no, no, no. That should not be an interference issue at all. That's also why you can run this on multiple generators and different peptide. That should not be a problem. It should not interfere. Bobby, after installing new Speak software, I'm no longer getting the bip sound after it finishes the treatment. Well, that is in the settings for that, but it shouldn't be a problem. Is in system. In system, I think it's in system. Come on. Oh, this should move. There's a I thought there was something. Oh, pulse. The pause sound during no, that's pause generation. Pulse sound during BFB. No, that's not it. There was something in here for that. Hopefully, it didn't go away. Um, I don't see it in here. I remember it in here, but I mean, I don't look at this very often. There used to be something that said you're supposed to do a beep if it was zero. I don't see it. Maybe you guys see it. This looks like you need to call, send us something off to customer support and ask them. They might have dropped it accidentally. This is why I don't like to update unless I have to. It has to be worth it. So that's the best thing I can offer to you. I don't see it in there. And I know it was in there, but I haven't looked at it in several releases. Sylvie, plasma is going to kill the expected cancer. How do you see plasma fitting with peptides? Peptides. Oh, plasma does an excellent job of delivering frequencies. That's what it's really good at. And so I believe that it works pretty well for healing. In some ways, I think it works better than scalar for healing, but there's good and bad to all that. To be perfectly honest, I would for peptides, I'd use plasma over scalar. The problem with scalar is the device actually limits out at 50 kilohertz, which is way low for peptides. It's in there, and maybe it works. I haven't tried it, but I do plasma for peptides before I'd ever use a scalar for it. Edith, thank you, Edith. I appreciate it. Hopefully, I won't be too indebted with emails. Kitten, wet peptides will be effective. No, will peptides be effective? It's to be effective only running when not using my computer for other things. One computer is not going to keep it connected to it. Okay. I get it. You only have one computer. I would do what I could. I mean, that's what I do. First thing I do is try to figure out how can I keep this connected to my computer. Now, and there's a lot of reasons you may not be able to do that. Maybe it's a work computer and you're not allowed to hook up anything else when you're doing work stuff for it, or maybe you don't have any ports. No ports is not a problem. You can actually buy for $10 US. You can buy a USB hub, plug it in, and plug in a bunch of USB stuff, including your generators and your mouse and all that sort of stuff. So I don't know if that's the reason you can't, why it's not practical. You know, you're going to get the best use out of it by having hooked up to a computer. And if you only have the one computer, I'd try to figure out a way to have it plugged in all the time. That's the best. And as far as waiting, no, you're better off running it for 1 hour a day than 0 times a day. That's the way I see it. So try to figure out a way to run it more often until you can get another computer. And again, especially if funds are an issue, I've done this in my presentations. Look in your closet first for an old computer. If you can't find one, ask your friends for an old computer sitting in their closet. Because there's anybody who's got a Windows laptop probably has an old one laying around. And unless it's more than 20 years old, it'll run spooky. So you can probably acquire one that way. I hope that helps you. I'm getting to the point where I can't read my stuff anymore. Which glasses do I have on? You said people going to cancer use only remote. If you know, so would you be able to recommend some presets? Well, where I would start with if you don't have plasma, is I'd start with Cancer DB. As a matter of fact, um, Debbie Rich just did a presentation on doing using the XM generators only to do cancer. The Cancer DB protocol has a deal where they use up to 4 blue generators. Actually, they're GXM as well. But anyway, they don't use plasma, so it's possible to do that without plasma. Obviously, plasma is the most powerful. You're gonna have the best luck with it. But if you don't have it, use what you have. That's my opinion, and I would tend to follow the Cancer DB protocol as much as possible. If you have questions or need help with that, send me an email. Mike, I wish they would change the word offline. Yeah, no, yeah. this is the offline mode of him. And if they just call offline mode, that'd be helpful. But yes, offline and online is very confusing. And yeah, it would have been better to come up with some other stuff. I mean, to be honest, presets and programs is confusing because and people get that confused all the time. Well, I'm running a program. No, you're actually in a preset with programs in it. So yeah, that's a deal for me. I wish we could come up with something, but I have no say in that. Kathy, software update downloads. What's the difference between Cancer Clinic and Spooky? Oh, there's a huge. Well, there is no Spooky2 mall downloads. There's a Spooky2.com downloads. The Spooky2.com downloads is considered to be the general availability. That is the official stuff that people should be running, if they're downloaded new and all that sort of stuff. While the Cancer Clinic is the beta site, and it's got a whole bunch of stuff in it, and I've seen it broken in both of them, by the way, where you can just update your databases or just update your presets or update everything. I mean, it's very different. And and I really don't care for the cancerclinic.co.nz downloads. The only reason it's in there in this presentation is because that's the only way I know of to keep current with the peptides. And when John is adding 100 or 200 peptides a day, it's maybe something you want to do. That's the only reason I've done it, because otherwise I wouldn't recommend it because I consider it beta. And so if you're a computer geek, then you don't care if it's beta. If you're not a computer geek and you can barely do anything in your computer, you do care. So that's the reason it's in there. Okay, Sharma. I always run for healing. I run a 7.83 opening body for receiving. Yep. I usually do it on a back balance and my responds to frequency therapy. I think that's a good idea. Thank you for the about suggestion. Ashley, hypothetically, can you use molecular weight to send a set of frequencies to each day to replace your supplements? Well, actually, the answer to that is sort of. The problem is that the molecular weight stuff isn't nearly as powerful as whatever pill or whatever it is. That's number one. Number two, it's a molecular weight stuff. So it may not do everything that vitamin A in a pill did. But what I want to show you, if you go to presets, and then we go into healing, and we go into remote, in daily wellness, that's what daily wellness does. Daily wellness does this. It does a sleep induction for 5 hours. Then it does multivitamin mineral for 4 hours. Then it does some daytime stuff to make you more alert and all that, some evening stuff. So yes, there are people that are doing all kinds of stuff with this sort of thing, and you can try them out. You know, it won't do the same, but it may be enough for you. That's the best way I can. And no, there's no way to do a specific dosage. There isn't. And most of these molecular weight stuff people are running 24/7. And there's no, I need this dosage. No, it doesn't work that way. Cheryl, so I would need a 20-port USB hub for 20 generators, yeah? Or a link to 10 ports. Yep, you could do that. Actually, you'd need more than two 10s. Two 10s will give you 19. Because what you're going to do is you're going to daisy chain these together. You're going to plug the second hub into the first hub. So you only have 9 ports on the first hub that are available. And if you're going to do that, you need to get high quality ones because most of these, well, some of these will daisy chain together and some won't. That's what it boils down to. For that details, you ought to send me an email and I'll do the best to answer that. I currently have how much is it? A 16 port, I think is my main one. And I've done daisy chaining before and other people do too. Okay. I have a, thank you, Charlotte. I have a X Pro and that grate cancer? Okay, so I I I I think you're asking if it can cure cancer. The answer to that is nothing can cure cancer. The official one. Can it can it really help? Can it help you get it in remission? The answer to that is yes. But what you would need to do for um, what you need to do is follow the cancer DB protocol. And that's a combination of stuff that's in the programs and biofeedback and all that sort of stuff. So, and I've got a presentation on that I did in August, I think. But send me an email on that, and I'll give you some pointers on that. Kitten, hi Kitten. Let's see. As I understand it, once the programs are presets, you do not need to connect to the internet. That's correct. You don't need to be. The only thing you need to be connected to the internet for is when you download the software. That's it. Okay. Once it's installed, you never have to connect to the internet ever again, unless you want to update something. So you don't need it at all. So each time you start, nope, you don't need it. Turn off the internet and leave it off forever is fine. And Marcia, what kind of power strips do you use? Well, here's the deal. The the spooky generators take very little power. So, I mean, I think it's somewhere in all this for mine. I think I have 3 or 4 power strips that are daisy chained together because it doesn't take that much power. And you're talking, I think for the XM takes 20 watts or 40 watts. I mean, it's very little power. So the problem you run into is having enough watts to plug things in, especially when some of these, depending on their horizontal or vertical, take up more than one. This is the current one that just came with my latest batch. And in most power strips, it's going to take up at least 2 slots. And so you end up using a lot because of that. But you can use virtually anything. I'd recommend that the base one be some sort of surge protected one, but the rest of them can be the cheapest crap you can find. Uh, Rick, is there a peptide for arthritis? No, there is a peptide for arthritis, and you can deliver it via plasma if you want, or remote, or whatever. And that's actually a new one. It wasn't in the original and the January 1st one, but there is one for plasma for arthritis, and you can deliver it any way you want. I'd probably start with a remote, see what it does personally. But or if you have serious problems in general, here's what I would do: is I'd deliver it via plasma, and then when I wasn't using plasma, I could use the same generator to do a remote. Or if I had 2 generators, I'd use the one would be plasma and do it, and I'd have it on the remote 24/7. That's the way I handle serious things. And so, okay, so yeah, man, we're at 8:26 right now. I'm getting ready to. So we need to see if we can shut this down soon. I have no more Q&As. I can open the chat and see what's in there. We're down to 204 people still here. That's a bunch. I think that yes, there's actually, there's somebody asked about peptides for sensitivities. My wife has stomach problems, and I think it's a sensitivity thing. So I'm actually running a peptide for her right now in sensitivities, sir. And so we're trying to do that. So there's all kinds of stuff in peptides. Peptides are the biggest thing the biggest change I've seen in Spooky since they did since they did the GX, in my opinion. It's very, I think, very advanced and has a lot of potential. Will it work for everybody? Nothing works, and that's my view. Spooky doesn't fix everything for everybody. It will not. Nothing does that. However, I think it'll fix many things for everybody. That's my opinion. And so you just have to try it and see. So give it a shot, and that's what I'm doing at the moment. And yeah, a good place to look is there's a Spooky2 success stories in Facebook. That's a really good one, and I've seen some really good stuff on peptides in there. It's well worth it. Acid reflux for you can yes. Can I run acid? I wish you would ask this in QA. Can I run acid reflux or peptides at someone living in another state? Yes. If you can get their fingernail, they can be anywhere on planet Earth, and you can do that. That's not a problem. So people ask a question. I generally don't. Well, I don't like to check because it changes too much. So on a GX Pro. On a GX, you can run a remote terrain on one port and a contact plasma on the other. Yes, you can do that. It's two separate generators. Can you pluck out the page? No, actually, the second I have of the two videos I did, one of them was just updating the peptide presets. That's all it did. So follow that, and you can just update the peptides. You don't have to update everything. And I've done that. Actually, I've done that on one of my computers that's running the 2022 November version, and that's how I installed the peptides on it. So it works great. Installing minute pressure. That's probably my yep. Those are my YouTube. Thank you, Molly. Those are my YouTube videos for doing that. And I just did the second one today because yesterday is when they came out the one on Cancer Clinic. And so I had an old version that was downloading it from the forum, which was just a nightmare. What they're doing at Cancer Clinic, I deleted that one and made a new video this morning for that. You said not to use online. Online, no, no. Back to this online offline. Now you should use your, in my opinion, to do peptides, you need to have your generator connected to a computer 24 by 7. It does not need to be on the internet ever after you download anything. You can turn off the internet forever if that's what you want to do. Gold treasure, save money instead of buying tablets. Yeah, let's see. Back to here. Thank you, Roxanne. I appreciate that. Uh, Leona. Oh, yeah. So Leona's saying, I was able to help my mother to heal from her supposedly terminal bone cancer with a raw food diet done right when you could still get the food. Yeah. I helped to get Wi-Fi out of the house and go Ethernet. Yeah. If you would go to a totally raw diet, no Wi-Fi, you might find out you can cure cancer. Possibly. I know a lot of people have. If you keep putting toxins in and not raw food, which has enzymes intact, so you don't cause the usual inflammation, but food for the diets over 30, you're swinging aside. That's true. Keep in mind, there's also some really nice peptides having to do with Wi-Fi and EMF and all that to help your body fight those off. So those you might find those interesting. Offline equals standalone. Yes, it does. Yeah, that standalone is a better way to put that. But they've been doing this as well, this offline online stuff. What I need, you're right. I need to start referring to it as offline. I mean, as standalone. Yes, standalone means it's not hooked up to a computer. I need people are asking questions in here, and it's really hard for me to do this in Q&A. I mean, in chat. You really need to type your questions in a Q&A because otherwise I can't keep track of them. Since you can't run remote terrain on no, even the Generator X Pro has two generators. You can't run remote terrain in one generator and contact them in the second generator. Yes, you can. They're totally separate. It doesn't matter what you're doing on generator one, you can do something different on generator two. So they're two separate generators. The peptide video is offline, huh? Well, I'd have to look at them. We'll have to look at those and see what they are. If you send me something, I will look at the. These don't work. Thanks a lot. Okay, so let's see if I can go find these. No, not in there. Back in here. Go into Chrome because that's how I get to this stuff. Then we'll go into YouTube, and then we're gonna minimize this, and then we're gonna go look at my stuff. So hang on a second. I will send the things for this. This is the installed chain editor. I did that today. This is the update one. Copy, can share the link. So this is update peptides. I can't spell. I can't type this time of night. That is the update peptides video. And then this is the video on just updating your Spooky or installing it. see. Mhm. Those are the correct ones. So, oh, yeah, and these are the short links that YouTube does. So those should work for everybody. Okay. Where is sharing them? They went into chat. They are in the chat. So if you can look at the chat, and it's from MG, that's me. This is chat. It should have. Oh, crap. Yeah, give me a break. I didn't send to everybody. Golly, everyone. That makes a difference, doesn't it? And if I can do. No, I don't want to do that. Hang on. Everything's a project here. Okay, that's the peptides one. And this is the other one. Okay, Kitten, can you see those? Everybody see it. Perfect. And Linda got them, so they're all there. Sorry about that. Hi, I appreciate all the positive comments. Are there anything else that we need to talk about? Let me look at the Q&A. There's something in the Q&A. What peptides are ED? Well, you look it up. I mean, if we go look at Spooky2 and Subway, Home, JW, Remote, that's where he is. I just find for it. So is this in, where are these? Yep, they're in JW peptides. So they're right there. Okay. I'm sorry I covered so much. I really didn't want to. Um, for a beginner from Susie. Generally, what people do is they get everything up and running, they run terrain, and then it depends on what you're trying to do. If you're doing general stuff, yes, I do a biofeedback and run stuff on that for in killing. But if you bought it because you have psoriasis or you have some other problem, I'd be running stuff for that. That's where I would go. And I might run stuff for that and for the biofeedback. But that's generally where people go with it. You know, there's two sets of people: people who buy spooky for a given thing, like if you had cancer, in which case you're going to run cancer stuff, or they buy it because they want general health, in which case you're going to start with biofeedback, and you're going to look at those programs like the daily wellness and chakras and that sort of stuff. That's well, so it all depends on what you want to, what you bought it for. Okay. Okay. Yes, detox can remove lead and mercury. Although what I've heard is that if you use binders at the same time, it helps. Can we link peptides and separately chain link programs? The answer to that is yes. You can actually chain a bunch of peptide presets together, and then you can actually chain chains together as well. That does work. I think that's what you're asking. Uh, if you want the multi to cycle every hour, oh gosh, that is more complex than what I can do here because it's not specific. You can play with it. If you go into programs and you look at no, wait a minute, you go into settings. Sorry, you go into settings. Um, there in settings, there's a after this much do this or start in and advance these sort of things. You can make things run certain times and all that. How that's going to work with peptides, I don't know. I haven't tried it. It's not the most friendly facility. I've played with it a bunch of times, and every time I do it, it just drives me crazy, and so I give up on it. So I don't have a specific answer for that. So okay, how often run biofeedback? Well, it depends on what you're trying to do and what you're trying to kill. The general view is if you're treating remotely, about once a week. If you're treating contact mode, about every 3 or 4 days. Plasma mode is every 2 to 3 days. hopefully that makes sense to you. So that's, so if you had a problem, I run biofeedback and I'm going to use plasma, I do it probably every 3 days. Contact mode, probably every 4 days. Remote mode, I'd give it a week. Okay. Can we chain everything together? Peptides and programs. No, you can chain anything you want because all you're doing is you're gluing presets together. So if you have a peptide preset and you have something else, you can glue them together in a single chain. Because when it goes to the next preset, it does whatever that preset's supposed to do. I think that answered that question. I'm running terrain preset. What's it start? Should it run? Yes, it should run. If you're running terrain in remote, it's going to run for 11 days straight. You don't have to do anything. So when I look at it, it seems to stop and press start. Smalley's trying to answer that as well. Chances are you're not running the remote mode. Either that or something happens to the computer, it's rebooting. That's my opinion. But Smalley will answer that as well. Okay, I'm transferring my question to chat from here. Okay, I've been receiving this message on all my laptops since August. Oh, great. After lapse is pre the last USB device you connect to the computer malfunction. Oh, this problem. Something I can reconnect. Hang on a second. I got to think about this. Okay, where I've seen this. Yeah, I do that. No. So, Mary, where I've seen that, because I actually have seen that, is there are some issues with USB phones of how many things you can chain together and nifty stuff like that. And so, what I need to know is you need to send me an email with details about what's your physical configuration. Do you have hubs in there? What's connected to which port and what kind it is and stuff like that. And then we can go from there. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I've fixed that customer service cannot or didn't or whatever. So don't, this should work. But I've actually seen it before and I'm trying to remember. It's getting too late for me to remember, but I've seen this before, and it was related to USB hubs. It's fascinating. It's really fascinating. That's the best way to put it. Oh, send me some information to spookytechhelp@gmail.com and definitely outline what you have and how everything is hooked together, and we'll go from there. Okay. And because I should be able to help you fix that problem. All right. So Brandon, let's see. Smalley's still doing that. Any success with parallels? Parallels will work, yes. So if you want to use parallels, that will work. I hope you're fairly technical. Anything with virtual machines, you have to be semi-technical. Actually, most of my stuff I do with, well, that's not true. At home, I have standalone machines I'm using, but I do a lot with virtual machines. I tend to run a Linux desktop and then run VMware under that, and I have a number of machines that are running under that, and some of them are spooky machines. So parallels should work, and I know it does, but hopefully you're fairly familiar with parallels because the documentation of spooky is virtually non-existent. You have to figure this out on your own, and that's true for VMware as well. So if you're familiar with parallels and it runs Windows under it, it should work just fine. Okay, and Bobby, I'm healing a meniscus tear on my knee and running contact mode. Also killing cornea fungus on the right knee. Is that okay? Unfortunately, Bobby, at the end, is that gout can cause any overrating my body? And the answer to that is no. You can do that. That's just fine. Actually, for meniscus tears, I've used contact mode and I did imprinted stickers as well, and it worked really well. So if you want details on that, send me the email and we can talk about that. But I'm a imprinted sticker sort of person. Actually, it's one of the downsides of peptides. I can't do it. Software update because no, the software update is everything. The January software update is everything with Spooky, including the peptides. And there are other presets in there as well that are really nice to have. I like it. I haven't seen any problems with it. And if there's a group of people that don't like anything above the 2022 version, which we're not going to get into here. That's if you're not one of these people, then you should update to it. That's exactly what I think. So to download the January 26th, January 26th, the current download software. I don't understand that. Please understand that, but the software update includes no. To download the January 26th, well, it's not January 26th yet. Update overrides the current download software. No, if you want to update the presets, you follow the update presets video. Because right now the most current full spooky is the January 1st. And so if you want the January 7th or January 6th peptide updates, that's what the update part is for just peptides. I hope that makes sense. Okay. Is there any peptides that address telomere repair? I don't know. I don't even know what telomere is. Let me see what my stuff says here. This was open. There it is. And oops. Fine. Telomere. If I spelled it right. Hey, I found some. What this is. Let's see. Let me turn off chat. I'm not sure. I can't answer that. I don't know. I don't know what telomeres are. It's if it's part of this, then the answer is yeah. Is yes. But that's the best I can offer you. A lot of times with spooky, you have to do some research to figure out what this actually means because what it's called may not be the same thing. To Q&A. Okay. So done. Leona, you know the book. No, there is no book. I guarantee the closest book is what we're looking at right here. That's because John is constantly putting new ones in, as in every day right now, and so he's using a lot of uh, AI to figure this stuff out. As a matter of fact, what I've heard is that he's getting trouble with the AI company he's using because he's using so much of the AI. But so there is nothing there. The only other option is you go to the blog and there's a bunch of stuff in there. But like I said, I don't like the blog. My blog confuses the crap out of me. It's so disjointed, in my opinion. And so I don't like it, but that's where I would go if you want more details on it. Catherine. Um, Smalley's answering that. Run terrain before what? How often run? Well, terrain for me, terrain is a 3 or 4 times a year deal. And then the rest of it is biofeedback anytime in between. It's the NZOD and Sunny Strand. That doesn't help me much, Leon. I'll take your word for it. That's on Yara will help. Okay, that's a good place to go look. Susie, the telomeres. I don't know. I didn't see. I don't know. We'd have to do the search in it, so I don't know what they did with that. Leona, Betty doesn't sleep. He doesn't sleep much. I have a feeling. That's probably true. Okay, let me look at chats. We really need to fold this up before I go to sleep. It has no presets to say test mode. I downloaded from the website, and I don't know what presets you're talking about that doesn't have, say, test mode. What's in there is here, Spooky2, in presets, home, miscellaneous. I think that's right. Then there's a generator signal test. Is that what you're referring to? The other test mode tends to be in here. Notice where it says test mode? That says test mode because I don't have any physical generators on this computer. So it's in test mode. That's what the test mode means. Gum abscess was actually there's some in the question was programs for gum abscess. Yes, there you go. There actually are some peptides for that, for gum stuff and for abscesses and for root stuff and all that. There's some very specific things. You have to install it and look around yourself to find it. I can't answer that one. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna give like a couple more minutes and that's it. Uh, it's early in the day for Smalley and for it's early in the day for those guys in China. Not so much for me. And these days are actually really stressful for me because I worry about what I'm going to do. Put PDFs into the presets. Well, once you get the PDF, all you do is you put it in the peptides in the JW peptides folder. That's what this is. So that's why it's got this one in here. That's how it knows it's in there. You just have to copy it in there. I'll find out. Like I said, I'll find out tomorrow what the heck's going on with this because I know who to ask. And if nothing else, I'll send you what I have. But it may not match the all the ones that are in there and the new ones. I don't know. I'm not the one generating that. So okay, all right. I think it's time to fold this up. I appreciate I appreciate all the positive feedback. I really do. But I need to go. So thanks for coming, and I look forward to the next one. I'm not sure what I'm doing next month, but I'm doing something. So I appreciate it. And let's see, stop share. And I'll talk to you guys later.